Welcome to Warcraft Reloaded, a podcast brought to you by Mash Those Buttons, covering all things World of Warcraft Classic and its communities. I am Bobby, also known as Blazin' Bob, and once again, we're joined by Mel, aka Melorina. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good.
Good. And for the first time on the show, we have Fark TV. How you doing, Fark?
Hello there. I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for asking.
Glad to hear.
All right. So, guys, I'd like to start off the show always by thanking our tank patrons, and that is Thick Lizzie and Croxford. Thank you guys so much. And I'd like to remind everybody, we do stream the show live on Twitch at twitch.tv/BlazinBob. That's BLAZZINBOB. I want to remind everybody that if you get rested XP, make sure to use the code RELOADED. It helps you out by saving 5%, and it helps the show out quite a bit. So thank you so much for that. All right, we're going to go through a new voicemail. We're going to go through, we got one new review. We're going to go through what we've been doing lately in WoW, and then we've got some news, not a ton. And then we have, as we do on the show, and when we ever have someone new on, we get to know them. So we're going to get to know Fark there at the end. And then for the audio listeners, you are going to get a conversation with me, Sarth, Ruggs, and Simon Eyes going over the recent video on class gear scaling by the numbers. We're going to break that down for the live viewers and the YouTube viewers. Just letting you know that part is not going to be in the live version or the YouTube version. But if you want to see the actual VOD of it, and instead of just audio, you can go to Ruggs or Sarth's YouTube channel, and they have it there right now. So you can check it out there if you'd rather see the graphical things. But the video does mostly spell out the numbers, so feel free to listen to it on the podcast. Whichever is best for you, you do you. All right. With that said, we had one voicemail, and it's a doozy. Two things before I start the voicemail. Yes, Ozzy, we definitely remember you from Hardcore. You've left us a review, and you've come into my stream and other streams quite often. So yes, we do know who you are. Secondly, I did not pay Ozzy to do this. This was of his own accord. So
I don't even know what it says, but I know Bob probably sent him some gold. I'm just saying.
Well, here it is.
Hey, what up, Bob and Mel and the podcast, whoever the guest is. Quick few things I have in my notes. I'm just going to rapid fire them off. I'm Ozzy, OZZYY on Sky Fury Alliance. I'm a Boomy. You may remember me from the Hardcore Challenge. I was a Warlock. I've always played Warlock, and I died at like level 58, I think. Anyways, what's up? So I have a gear score of 4,200, which I'm very proud of. Is that lame to brag about? I don't see many others with 42, and I think I'm hoping to get 4,250 soon. But I always feel really cool in parties having a high.
All right, I'm going to stop it there and just ask us. I don't think it's lame at all. I love to, I'll tell anybody if I'm getting in a group, my 4.2 gear score on either my tank or my rogue. Now, my rogue, I actually put gear on that I don't even use in the raid just to sport the higher gear number. And then I put my librarian's paper cutter back on after we get in there.
You're a loser.
What about you, Fark?
Yeah, no, definitely. If you're playing a priest, you should equip tanking trinkets, that nobody wants, and boost your item level sky high, and be like, "Yo, I'm the most geared priest on the server," and then you equip, your whatever trinket from TBC.
Your real gear.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with being proud of that. Yeah, I mean, if groups are holding people out of heroics for gear, shame on you. Like, they are easy as pie, and if you're not good enough to carry them, then maybe you shouldn't do it.
I just feel like people shouldn't hold people out of anything based on gear score unless they're knowledgeable enough to know what a good gear score for the different classes should be.
Well, I mean, you would want to run a Naxx 25 pug with, people with under 3K gear score. Like, you'd be setting yourself up for fault. I don't know. Give any thoughts on that, Fark?
Yeah, sure. Personally, what I look like for heroics, it doesn't matter that much. Especially like I have 380s now. All of them are tanks. I have blood, prot warrior, prot paladin, so tanking them wasn't really an issue, especially as a bloody case, simply because I had like bajillion self heals. But when I do make a pug, I do tend to do the old school gear checks. So I would like gear check someone, and usually the way I do it is, if you got no gems, no enchants, that's kind of like a no-go. But if someone has like, I don't know, if someone has a blue item and I see, okay, it's gemmed, it's enchanted, that's fine. That usually is kind of an indicator that person cares about their character. Hence, more than likely, they will also care about their performance. And I would rather take someone with like item level 200 blue, heroic quality 5-man item than someone who has like 213s but they're unenchanted, ungemmed, because to me it indicates that the person simply cares more. That's kind of that's been kind of my rule of thumb that I've been using for the last couple of years at the very least.
Definitely. That's what actually we run. I main tank our guild's second run, and it's only about half guildies with alts, and some guildies that are social members, and then we get a lot of pugs, and basically that's what our raid lead does. Is if like they don't have gems in there, he's like, all right, dude, like, you're not coming. So I think that's a good rule. I think that's a really good rule. All right, I'm going to play the rest of this.
Gear score. So yeah, that's that. I just got the Undying challenge from Naxx, and we just did 3-man Drake. I have a pretty casual guild, but we're knocking these challenges out. We're going to start working on our 25-man next. Okay, other than that, the Spy add-on. This is pretty OP. I don't remember you talking about this on the pod, but it makes a sound anytime that there's an opposite faction person near you out in the open world. So while I'm farming ores, it tells me when there's a alliance. It tells me their name. I can pull them I can put them in my kill list. And it even tells me when they're invisible in stealth mode, which I always like to think about how the add-on works from a technology side, and I have no idea how it's able to tell the opposite factions in stealth mode out in the wild or in a battleground. Pretty cool add-on, Spy add-on.
All right. So on the Spy add-on, we definitely talked about it early on because there was a ton of
people of the opposite faction on your same server.
Yes.
What's that like?
Oh yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah, benediction woes, but so we definitely talked about the Spy add-on. There was tons of controversy about it early on in Classic's life. Like, rogues were maulding, across Azeroth, just losing their minds, and rightfully so, in my opinion, because it really takes that kind of fun out of it, especially for the rogues. But for the non-rogues, it definitely made you feel a lot safer. And as someone on white main that played Alliance, well, it was pretty nice to be able to know I was about to get ganked. But how it does it, from what I understand, is it reads chat and somehow it's able to see that from chat. Like, I don't understand, but I know Blizzard like nerfed chat to try and nerf Spy a little bit. Like, it made it so that some like you couldn't see chat a certain certain ways away, but I mean that's the same way that a tune works too, is by reading just the chat of NPCs and things of that nature. So I don't know how exactly it works, but there's definitely been, a lot of controversy over it, and I used to use it a lot, but now that I'm on Benediction, I've just turned it off because you just never see Horde. So because it is a pretty hefty add-on that scans things constantly. But Fark, what's your thought on Spy there?
I don't have any thoughts in particular, to be honest, because I'm on Faralina and I have been since TBC. So I don't know what Alliance is. No, I'm lying. When we were doing Sunwell dailies, there was one Draenei that I remembered got insta charged by 10 warriors while we were doing dailies, and that was the only open world PvP experience I ever had on Classic.
Yeah,
literally.
Yeah, we're on just the opposite side, Benediction, and we were on Whitemane until basically like we were the second to last guild still clearing what's it called, Illidan. Forget, I've just blanked on the
Black
name.
Temple, yeah, tier 6.
Yeah, we were the second to last ally guild clearing it, and we just had to go. I mean, we couldn't do anything in the open world at all anymore. But for the majority of the time until then, we were the, usually 70-30, 60-40 Horde, on that server. But yeah, it's definitely, I don't know how I feel about it, but I did use it. You'd be crazy to not use it. But
Sure.
Kind of wish
So,
it wasn't there.
How was the experience of playing the faction where you have almost no opportunities to recruit? What did the auction house look like? Like, was it fun? Did you have this feeling playing, the niche faction, being the underdog? Was it entertaining for you, or do you kind of prefer the current Benediction meta?
Well,
To be honest,
okay.
I think in TBC we were at a point where we were really just raid logging, so it didn't impact us as much. And I feel like we found places to summon. I mean, it was kind of a relief going to Benediction when we were like, oh, we don't have to go through all of these hoops just to zone into a dungeon or a raid. But it was really good for the majority of the time we were there, and then we just stayed too long, and it got to the point where we couldn't recruit and we were starting to lose people, and so that's why we had to move.
Yeah, it was for the timeline. Whitemane was always Horde dominated, but then when we got to phase 2 and it was 70-30, and then a bunch of alliance guilds came over, and then it was like all of a sudden 60-40, and then sometimes 55-45, and then by the time we got mid AQ, it was 50-50 almost until the end of Classic. And then when TBC rolled out, it jumped up, in the first month to 70-30, and then it stayed at 70-30, but we were still the biggest server. So recruiting wasn't horrible, but it just generally kept getting horrible. And then for alts, there was no way to run heroics at all, because there was nobody making alts on Whitemane. And so when we moved to Benediction, we had been starved for a long time, so it was fantastic because I love world PvP, but it's one of the lowest ones on my totem pole of things that I want to make me happy overall, so for a bit there, it would have been great to go to Grobulus because they're living the good life, best of both worlds right now, but we made our choice and we're happier for it now, I think.
Yeah,
I had similar experiences. I played a little bit. If I a little bit of storytelling, I made a mistake. Then TBC, I tried to kind of go on a PV server on EU that was super dead from the Horde side point of view, and when you try to push things in a certain way too hard when you're on a server that has really small population, you tend to not get that many fresh and proactive recruits as much as you want to. So that was very, very suboptimal, and I regret that decision. So I had to apologize to some of my core raiders that came with me from Warmane. So yeah, I from my point of view, definitely that's not a good decision. That's why I tend to stick to the big servers for like multiple reasons like that, And the queues can be a pain, but that's the price I guess we kind of have to pay to have the leisure of basically,
and
basically being in a New York City, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of listeners that gave us shit for basically being scared to go to Grobulus, but you have to look at the guild leadership, and they made the call that was the best. Like, I mean, we were having 55 people, or not, no, sorry, like 35 people transfer, and and they were transferring multiple characters, lots of them. Like, that's a lot to ask, and to take the chance with their money like that, like, you can't ask them to do that. Like, they had no idea if Grob would stay, or if Grob would, like, what if we went and Grob did turn into Horde only? Like, going to Benediction was a sure bet, and they had to do what they had to do. And so I definitely have never really second guessed what they did, because at the time, with the information they had, that was the best call, period.
For sure.
Yeah, if I might add on to that, at least for someone who comes from guild management point of view, I would like to add, you've got to ask yourself, if you have to suffer queues, right? You already are suffering queues and you're dealing with this. At least when you are suffering it, it's going to be only your faction, and therefore you get the benefit of it, right? You're kind of competing for those slots with someone who has no potential benefit for you or your guild, right? Let's say even if you have alts, if you want to pug someone for just your 5-mans, or maybe you have third alt and you want to filter someone out, or you want to run GDKPs with your alts, something like that, you still get a benefit, because you get a lot more people that you could potentially invite into those runs. But when you're sharing a server, right, and you get queues on top of that, you pay the price of having queues and you get no benefit of being on like super hyper populated servers. So that's kind of why I see Grobulus, for me personally. I know there's a lot of people that enjoy that 50-50 split, and God bless them, let them enjoy it. But for me personally, like from guild management point of view, it has no benefits, at the very least for me, as I said.
That's a good point. It's a good point I hadn't even thought about. But yeah, all in all, world PvP is the least important to me, and it was really weird when we first went to Benediction, because I'm just like, I would always like swap my gear to PvP gear if I went out in the like open world, and I was always like watching my back, and like real, twitchy, and then and we're on, and like I'm doing the same things on Benediction, and then like a week later, I'm like, what am I doing? Why? Like, there's no one to attack me. What am I doing? Oh, so weird. Yeah. All right, well, I'll play the last of this part here.
Last note from the TwitchCon, on all you guys' appearances, Bob, you look pretty cool IRL. I'll give you that compliment. I was watching you from Desi's stream, and imagine, she walks in, there's a house full of people. It might be a little intimidating. Nerds everywhere, left and right, and I say that with love because I'm a nerd too. But then you just see Bob, and he's in the corner with his glasses on, a vape and pen, doing the pod with a bunch of people around. You just look pretty cool. Crix looks naturally cool, and Winky looks like a cool homeless man when he had his beard. But now that he shaved it, he looks like he found a house, I guess.
Oh, anyways, my God.
That's my takes on the game and your appearances and all that.
Oh, man. So, Fark, if you didn't know, when we went to TwitchCon, there was a house with a whole bunch of classic creators staying there. There was Tactics, Tommy Salami, Duranosaur, Winky, Cargos, God, I don't want to forget anybody, Crix, Sarth, God, tons of people, right? And I was just like, brought all my recording stuff over. I was like, you guys want to do a podcast? You guys can just kind of walk on over every once in a while, and we can just bring you in. And we did this, what we feel was really cool podcast with like a bunch of creators all in one spot. So that's what he's talking about. But I did not pay him to say I look cool, and the Wiki looks like a cool homeless guy. Almost made, like, I sent this to Crix and Wiki, and like they couldn't stop laughing. Wiki made a remix that I want to play on the pod too. Oh man, bummer for the audience watching. There was an ad on, but at least they'll get to hear at least they'll get to hear this. All right, ready?
And Winky looks like a cool homeless man. Homeless man. Homeless man. Winky looks like a Winky looks like a homeless man. Homeless man. And Winky looks like a cool homeless man. Cool homeless man. Cool homeless man. Cool. Winky looks like a Winky looks like a homeless man. Homeless man.
Oh, so that was Wiki's contribution to the end of that one. I thought it was pretty good. Fark, do you think we're crazy by now?
Cool? Come on.
I think homeless man is not the right term. I think it's real estate challenged.
Trying to be politically correct here.
Nah, jokes, yeah.
Oh,
it was funny. It was funny. I almost spit out my drink when he said, "Oh, he shaved. He shaved now. Now he found his way home."
Way home.
Oh, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Well, if anybody else wants to send us a voicemail, the number is 816-866-1066. We have a good time with them, and they've sparked a lot of good conversations, so keep them coming, guys. All right, Mel, we had one review. Do you want to get that?
Sure. It was from Magnitude 101 on iTunes. And he says, great WoW content, insightful WoW podcasters that make the 80 grind more entertaining. Happy to help here.
Nice. Thank you so much for the review. Those help us a lot on iTunes. The stars on Spotify help us a lot too, but we appreciate it. Just wish Spotify would let you guys write a little thing instead of just having you star. But we did have one email. I forgot to put it in the notes, so I'm just going to read it really quick. Just because I'm kind of interested to hear the thoughts here. I hadn't even thought about it really. So, dumb question, but which sound effect do you think sounds better? I've played Horde since Wrath of the Lich King up to retail, and recently been playing Alliance since all of Classic. Bloodlust sounds
To the good side.
Bloodlust sounds visceral and pumps you up, but there's something about heroism that sounds so cool about it too. I say Bloodlust sounds way cooler. I mean, I play Alliance, but I'm just going to be honest. Bloodlust, I mean, it's night and day. I think it sounds much cooler, but I was also a Horde player in Warcraft 3, and there was just something about it. Something about it. But what do you guys think?
I feel like I don't know what they both sound like, so...
I kind of have to confess here, to be honest. I'm too much of a meta slave, and I just focus on the timing of it. To me personally, doesn't matter if it's heroism or bloodlust. It's usually like, yo, Lust, we're 5 seconds late. The snapshots too. What are you doing? It's more like I just like super tunnel vision on when it's being used, and I can't really confess that I really pay attention to the sound. But now that the viewer did mention it, I can see like both sides. Like both are kind of iconic. I would say maybe Bloodlust is a little bit more iconic because historically Horde would have more shamans, hence you could hear it more. I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit more iconic from kind of like usage and lore point of view. Plus, like, I think in Warcraft 3 there was Bloodlust as well.
Yeah, it's the same sound effect for the Horde from Warcraft 3. And let's just say when I played Wrath before as Horde, I listened for the audio cue to know when to go ham. Now I have to listen for when somebody calls it out because I can't really like distinguish the heroism noise. It's not nearly as like as out there. And I'm a big audio cue guy from, coming from, playing different first person shooters and Overwatch, and audio cues are so important to me. I always can't believe it when people play without sound effects. I'm just like, really? That's so much information. You're just losing. But they might get it from someplace else, you know?
I just listened to both of them, and heroism sounds like an add-on dinging at you, and then like really quiet. So maybe that's why I don't notice it.
Yeah, I have to actually watch for me getting larger. Like, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's on now, you know, like, so I don't know. I'm definitely more a fan of the bloodlust and even the name of it too. So, that's her answer.
Definitely a horde name, though. It would be very unfitting for Alliance to have a bloodlust.
It could be like rallying cry. I don't know.
Oh, rallying cry is a good one, yeah.
All right, well, guys, what have we been doing lately in WoW? Who wants to go first? Mel, you like to go first.
I mean, I can go usually just because it's the shortest, right? I was traveling this week for work, so I traveled on Wednesday, and so I was there for our raid on Tuesday, which, by the way, I scheduled my travel for like Wednesday through Friday so that I can be at home for the raid on Tuesdays, but then I have to schedule my flight for like 7 a.m. on Wednesday, and that always really sucks because we raid until like 1 a.m. But it was fine. And so we raided, and Bob and I did a little bit of our alts working up. So we got to 77, and I think that was over the weekend, right, Bob? Or did we?
I don't remember when the last time we did. I think it was over the weekend. Yeah, it was like we had a pretty crazy drunk late night stream where you went in and tanked a few dungeons, I think. Maybe 2. I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm a pro now. I'm a pro Pally tank. I've never played Pally or tank, and it's a lot of fun. I don't get as nervous anymore when I go in to tank a dungeon. I'm more nervous for Bob because he's my healer, but that's about it.
Yeah,
and by nervous for him, I mean I'm nervous for me because he's my healer, right? Like, just saying.
It's fair.
Yeah, that's a good trust exercise. You know, healer tank dynamic.
It's usually opposite. He's usually the tank, and I'm usually the healer. So now with like the flipped roles here, it's very interesting.
Yeah, we have a good time. We have a good time doing it. Is that all you've been doing? I can't even think about it. You've been just making money hand over fist. Yeah, Mel was out of town the other night, and I was making my mechano chopper, and I didn't know if I was going to have enough cash on hand because I hadn't messed with my bank alts for a while, and everything was full, and I just didn't feel like messing with the auction house to like sell. So I had a ton of stuff in raw, goods, but hadn't actually got the actual, liquid cash for it. So I wasn't sure if I was going to have enough. And I was like, oh, I could just probably just borrow something from Mel's account. She's got like, 17K at the moment. And all of a sudden I get a call from Mel and she's like, do not spend my gold. And I'm like, are you watching the stream? How'd you know? And she goes, I have my sources. And she definitely wasn't watching the stream because she never watches the stream when she's out of town. So I was like, who's telling on me, guys?
I have my sources. They messaged me back and they said, I don't think he was going to steal your gold. And I was like, better safe than sorry. He needed to know.
Yeah, but yeah, that's one thing I did. Good looking
out, guys. Keep me informed when I'm out of town. See what happens when I leave town. I leave Bob by himself for like 3 days. He spends like 20K gold. Like, what is happening? Like, see, this is not.
I did. I bought because I had my greatness deck forever on my rogue, just waiting for what's it called. But I just decided one night I'm gonna buy greatness for my prot warrior and I'm gonna make a mechano chopper. So it set me back a little bit, but I'm still pretty okay.
I bought the one Dark Moonfarer deck for the priest. And I went through the first raid, not realize because I hadn't read it because I had like made a ton of gear. This was a while ago, right? I'd made a ton of gear and I like bought that and all of the stuff. And then after the raid or like midway through the raid, I was like, yeah, I just haven't been using the on use part of this trinket because I didn't take the time to read it. So that was really beneficial. It's really not a great trinket if you don't use the on use part of it. So lesson learned. Read your trinkets when you buy them. Yeah, I think so. The one that restores mana.
Yeah. It's quite a good one. A good start one, yeah.
Yeah, now that I started using it, it's actually very powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to be super lazy, you just macro it on your disco shield. Yeah.
No, it's on my renew, okay? It was on my shield, and I was like, okay, that's literally all I do. So I probably don't need to be popping this the first thing every fight. So I put it to my renew. So now it's a little more intentional, okay? But if I don't, I will forget to use them, and it's not effective. I know my limitations. I'm aware.
No, that's good. Yeah, it's a good filler one for sure.
Fark, do you want to go or do you want me to go?
I can go next, I guess. I've been kind of busy this week, and I'm gonna lie, I've raided like 4 nights a week, and it's been a mix of both 10 and 25 men. Usually on Tuesdays we try to speed run 10 men, and we try to have competitive times. And the week before we failed horribly. It was absolute disaster. It was we had to retcon that whole run. So we came with new minus,
right?
Yeah, it was absolutely horrific. I hope I deleted the WOD. And we had this strat planned, right? So this was really fun. We have this Tuesday run. We're smashing it. We got the flow. We're pulling this, going bada bing, bada boom. We got the recover for trash requirements, everything, right? Amazing time. And we had this strat going, right? Where we kill Loatheb and we would pull half of military with the spore buff. Ooh. So we go rocket boots after Loatheb. We go into military, and all of a sudden there are threat issues. I'm like, wait, what's going on? Like, we usually save the tricks for the pack thereafter. There's this meticulous pull. What's going on? And we realize mid pull of half of the military wing that the Blizzard hot fixed.
No.
I was just going to bring that up. That's fixed now.
Yeah, that's what happened, because we went in immediately after reset, right? And we're popping cooldowns quick, tricks, MD, Kims, D-Sex, no, wait, stop, move, disengage, no, battle res. Like, we're trying to salvage all of this. We finished the run. Because we have to keep going, right? Screw it, forget, let's go, keep the pace, keep going, right? Because we took a big penalty. We lost 5 minutes there alone, right? It was complete disaster. We finished the run. Boom. We got notification on Discord, because we have this Discord bot that sends us notification. Notification goes low, goes up. Loatheb spores no longer available after encounter ends. And I'm like,
yep, they disappear right away.
You're like, perfect timing. Thank you for that.
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
Great story.
We did get it's like we did have a 56-minute run, which is okay-ish, but at the end of the day, it was disappointing, because like we prepared this and we still failed the execution. But yeah, that's kind of the 10-man funny story. Yeah.
That is funny, because I was gonna wait till your story was done and be like, do you know that that's fixed now? So you definitely did. Found out the hard way.
They found out.
No, because we march the gates on Tuesday, and we run over 25 minutes, because we have mandatory splits, right, on Wednesday and Thursday. And on Wednesday we actually also did a parse run, where we had to wait 10-minute cooldowns between every single boss. And I think we decided to label our guild as predominantly speedrunning guild. I think we're going to stay away from parsing, because nobody enjoyed those 10-minute pauses. And yeah, we tried to queue skirmishes in between the bosses so they could go into arena and reset their cooldowns. What ends up happening is you drop flask when you go into arena. So it was like we needed to re-flask, rebuff, resummon, refish feast or personal food between
might as well
every
just wait the 10 minutes.
Yes, so it's like, what do you pair more gold to save extra the 5 minutes, or what do you do? So yeah, the parsing thing, but we promised it. We said to the guys, yeah, we're gonna have a parse run, let it all out. We're gonna do 1 healer, 1 tank. And I have to commend the guy who heals for our guild. He's a French Canadian resto shaman RPZ. Hats off. I looked at the logs. And in terms of all of the the parse runs that we did, he is the only resto shaman that managed to solo heal. So
I was gonna
shout
say,
out to
wow,
him.
you solo healed the resto shaman. That's
We borrowed
choice.
certain. No, well, there was the thing. I personally, I know I'm kind of straying away a little bit by elaboration. Is I like to really min max the amount of threat and mitigation that I can have, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of other parse skills or parse runs that I've also been scanning is they like go for Mirror of the Truth on Protection Paladin. They gem strike, they do this, they do everything just to gain like 700 extra DPS on the tank. The thing is, it's not worth it, right? After you reach a certain threshold as a DPS from tank point of view, it's really not worth it. It's, at least in my opinion and from my experience, I would say it's much more worth to get your hit cap, get your expertise cap, and then focus on as much like avoidance mitigation, stamina, like whatever you can find, whatever gives you the best bang for the buck, so to speak, right?
Mhm.
And that way we reduce the healer to 1, and bringing another DPS is always going to be better than trying to experiment doing DPS as a tank in Wrath. It's like near impossible pretty much to be competent, except maybe on a couple of different fronts, but I don't want to be too annoying, and rant too much. But yeah, that's kind of what we ended up going for. Since day one, we really wanted to like solo tank, solo heal, and 23 DPS, and it was fun. It was like super fun, and it was like really challenging because we also had to use tranquilities meticulously and rotate D-sacks properly and aura masteries and everything. So it was really, really fun, and yeah, that was on the menu for me at least. Sorry for the long rant, by the way.
Oh yeah, no problem at all. Yeah, I've been getting some shit from some people about the way I've been gearing my warrior, and I just keep going up in stamina. I keep my expertise cap right up there, and then my hit cap's a little bit lower, but I just count on hopefully having I bring it up high enough to where with the buffs, like I'm okay, right? So So like I just keep that, but then like I am gonna have a little bit of fun. Like now that I'm geared enough, I'm gonna use the greatness card, on a lot of fights, but not all fights, So I am but I'm a warrior though too, and we do a lot more damage, so it's really fun to do that damage, and so it'd also be really fun for farming with the lame revenge spec, but still really good to farm dungeons with that.
For sure.
Yeah, so what we've been doing, I forgot to mention some of the stuff we've been doing over the past 2 weeks, last week on the podcast, but to let everybody know, our guild, the majority of us, almost have all of the Naxx, or almost have all of the 25-man achievements done. We've got all the ones done in Naxx. We've got Malagos done. We just need Undying, and then the annoying Sarth one, where you don't get hit by the flame, whatever they're called, little bombs that come on the ground. Everybody says the best way to do that is to die. We're going to try as a guild to just kill the 3 drakes and then just like burn Sarth, and see if we can get as many people that as possible. And then later on, we'll just let a couple people die at the start each week. Maybe like, we're not really sure, but do you have any thoughts on how to get that achievement real quick, Fark, while we got you here?
Excuse me, the one gonna go when volcano blows?
Yeah.
Do you mean that one? Yeah, they you just pretty much die at the beginning, and you'll let people 24 man it.
Do you like our idea about doing just like killing all the drakes and then trying to zerg it as fast as possible and maybe get as many people as possible? Yeah,
for sure, definitely. Now, if you want to do that achievement, most effectively is by reducing the duration of the boss encounter, right? You could zerg it with 3 drakes, sure, but there's going to be lava spawns all over the place. You still might get whelps and stuff like that. It might distract you. So if you want to, and I think, there is also the modifier, HP modifier for drakes, right? So if you knock out the drakes and get everything out of your way, you should be able to zerg it like within 35, 40 seconds, provided, of course, that
Yeah, and we have pretty
you
good
reduce healers.
Like for a sweaty casual guild, we have pretty dang good DPS. Like we're burning everything, and we were able to get the Naxx achievements fairly easily. Like, so we have pretty good DPS. We have like a good handful of regular 99 parsers in our guild, so that helps a lot, you know. And if they're parsing 99 in our guild, they're really good players. You know what I mean?
So what do you have to do? You have to not like stand
there's
in the thing on the ground.
So there are these like volcano-ish projections, kind of like it's kind of like a fireball, but the texture doesn't have a lot of consistency. It's almost like see-through, super transparent like thing. You would almost like assume that it's part of like the environment animation, but it's the extra fire damage that you sometimes take, right? And there is
the
no
little
ground
blue thing on the ground that's like glowing.
No, that's the void zone. That's the void zone.
Okay, I was like, seriously, we're gonna try to all die because people can't get out of this stupid blue glowy circle.
If that was it, we'd all have it at least by now, you know. But
I was just gonna say
it's random little balls of fire that come down and hit, and you can see them, but it's really hard just because we've done either 2 or 3 drakes every week, you know. So like, there's a lot of shit going on.
If you ever played Cataclysm or did like any of those dungeons where you would have effects, you know, you could see like small little fireballs hitting the floor, and they would have like a circle, right? It's the same thing, except you don't have a target on the ground, so you kind of can't really properly see where it's going to land, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why a lot of people kind of fail that. But what's really good about that is, even if one person fails that, it doesn't matter. 24 other people are going to get it. So even if like 3 or 4 people still get hit by it, it's okay. You can still get it from like 20 people from your main roster. Do it 0D if you don't care about the loot, right?
Yep.
You can do it even 2D, right? And then whoever is missing that achievement, they can just pretty much die at the start of the encounter. Like they can get cleaved, or they can taunt the boss, and they can just sit in lava. And if you're dead, if your corpse is on the ground, it means that you can't take damage, which means that you get the achievement for free.
Yep. Yeah. And like, there's other things. Like, we were doing the 10-man Malagos achievement to get a killing blow on a guy on the disc. We had more people than we did disc that needed it. So we just got it for a couple people. You get it right there. And then we just reset the boss and did it again and got it for the rest of the people. So there's those types of tricks. Some of them, you know, require everybody to do something, like shocking, you know, requires everybody to not get shocked. One person gets shocked, you don't get it.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, so it's like there's different things you could do. But yeah, so we're planning on doing our Immortal run Thursday of next week. Or I guess when you hear this, guys, it'll be this week. But yeah, we're hoping we get that done, and then we might be doing the Sarth one, trying to do that on Tuesday night. And then we're also, a bunch of people are really trying to work on the 10-man achievement. Like some people, like Yip and Casimo and LZ and a few, they have their achievement already. We've been trying to kind of rotate people into groups. So tonight we might even we're going to try to do a Sarth 3 Drakes 10-man. We tried the other night, but we just, we kept getting to like 10 to 9 or 10%, and then he'd go immune. We've got a few new plans, a different like side to pull from. We're going to pull from the back left. You know, we've seen a lot of people do that. We're also not going to bring as many hybrid specs, so that should probably help us too. But it's definitely one of the harder ones to do, and so we're working on that. We're probably going to do maybe an Undying run tonight or tomorrow. So we're just basically what I'm doing, you know, rating wise, is just trying to do a lot of these achievements. And then during the day, I'm just making gold and doing whatever, you know, doing different weird achievements and stuff. But been having a lot of fun. I'm sorry I didn't update you guys on our progress on all the achievements, because I think we're doing pretty good to have them all done except for Immortal. We've got some plans for Immortal too. We're gonna bring some resistance pods. Maybe everybody, flash health rather than DPS, because like we're not gonna really worry about our DPS. We're just gonna worry. Take this 1 week to make sure we get this achievement done, and then we don't have to mess with it after.
What's the one called where you don't get hit by the fireball?
Ooh,
Do you know?
no, but I know it's at the bottom right-ish, maybe 1 or 2 up from the bottom right. If you're looking at the 25-man achievements, you should have them all knocked out except for 2. You should have Immortal and the other one. That should be all you need left. Unless you missed a 25-man raid. Oh, you might not have Scion. You might have not ever gotten a killing blow on Malagos, which we could easily get you.
Yeah, I don't have that one. But yeah, the lava strike?
Yeah.
I don't have not getting hit. Oh, that's the one you're talking about?
Yep. That's what we're talking about. And then, so you only have 3 you still need, right?
Just 2.
Oh,
right?
Okay. So you got the one marked SCION?
Oh no, I need that one too.
Okay.
It's annoying because they have all of these 21 player ones still in here, but I thought they removed those.
Oh, here, just go to General on the dungeon tab or whatever, and then scroll down to 25-man something. I forget what it's called.
Glory of the Raider, I think.
Glory of the Raider.
Oh, got it. Okay.
You should just see 3 that you need there.
Well, I haven't gotten there yet. I just started scrolling.
Oh. I think it's in the dungeon main tab.
I'll find it. Keep going.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean that's basically it for me on what I've been doing. So we can just move on. I was just kind of waiting to see if you had that, but you can just tell me later. We'll let you know next week when we hopefully have our drakes.
Yeah,
right.
Hopefully you're gonna get it when the podcast goes live.
Yeah.
So grats to the future.
Thank you. All right, guys, let's move into time for the news. All right, so this really isn't news. It happened, but I wanted to just see if anybody had any thoughts or theories why it happened. So on November the 8th, we had a long 8-hour maintenance window for Classic, and I just don't know why. And they haven't said why. And so I was wondering if anybody had any, tinfoil hat thoughts as to why. Anybody?
Intern spilled coffee on the servers.
Oh, crap.
I thought maybe they were doing something for the 18th anniversary or,
Ooh.
I don't know. I don't know what it would have been like, because 8 hours is a long time.
Was it actually down for 8 hours?
It was only down, I think, for like 6. I think it came up like 2 hours early, but still a long time.
Yeah, that's a long time.
There could be some overlapping issues between retail and Classic, because initially I believe that our client started on BFA client and then it was updated to Shadowlands client. And that's why, for example, some add-ons, you can use the retail add-ons on Classic, right? So, for example, add-on called Move Anything, you can use it on 3.4 client, and you could have on the TBC client, right?
Yeah.
So what could have had happened is that behind the scenes, kind of behind the curtain, they since they released the 10.0 client, maybe they were trying to pull a different fork from the main Git and update Classic with the same fork so that it stays aligned with the retail, because that's what Blizzard likes to do. And I believe I heard Brian Birmingham talk about it once, where they like to keep Classic as a project, which is a subfolder, so to speak, of in lag terms, of course, so to speak, of retail, right? It's kind of like a subcategory of retail in terms of their internal infrastructure. So it could be that the 10.0 patch had something to do with it, just from the top of my head.
But and I think I've heard him talk about that too, that it actually makes it easier for them to utilize retail coders to help them solve problems in Classic. So
yeah,
so I can see, and I think we started on the Legion client, if I remember all the information.
It could be Legion client. Yeah, Legion, then BFA, and then eventually it was synced with BFA. Yeah. Sorry, with Shadowlands.
Yeah. So yeah, that's probably it. I was just trying to get like some funny, tinfoil hat things. Our guild leader plays warrior, and so he was, he was like, well, if they haven't said, it's got to be fury buffs, right? I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, those are gonna come in like 6 months.
Oh man,
just gotta wait.
Just wait. Okay, so in next news, this was very short-lived, about a day, but Twitch created a separate category for World of Warcraft Classic, separate from World of Warcraft in Twitch. And this is, if you do YouTube content, like it is separate now. Classic is a different game you choose to go to. And I've heard a lot of opinions. One of the biggest opinions that you'll hear is Asmongold's opinion, and he straight just scrolled down to it and said, see, there's nobody playing it, so this is a dumb idea because people are going to call it a dead game. And just on the surface of that opinion, I'd like to just put forth, it was out for a day, bro. Most of the classic streamers didn't even know it was there. The only reason that I knew is because I saw people complaining about it in the Blizzard creators Discord. And so, like, I don't know, like, I've always wanted this because I don't want to have to parse through streamers that are streaming retail. I don't want to watch retail. I want to watch classic. But he said it would bring him down in the list, and he might have a point there. It might, have less people view World of Warcraft if, they split the two. But honestly, I think the majority of people streaming, it seems like, are classic streamers. Like, I don't know if they have the majority of viewers, but it feels like it's mostly classic streamers. So I don't know. I think it could have also helped out smaller streamers at different times. So I don't know. Anybody have any thoughts on this? But then, so a day later, they took it out and changed it back. I guess supposedly from what Asmon says is he talked to devs directly and convinced them that it was a bad idea. I don't know if that's true, but supposedly they got in contact with Twitch. As far as the creators Discord, they have not talked about it at all to the majority of us. So I don't know. I just don't know.
Is there a downside to it, like from a classic streamer's perspective? I'm not a streamer, so I don't know.
Well, Asmon was pointing out that it would put if you split the two, it would put both of them regardless lower on the top streamed games list if you go to browse in Twitch.
That makes sense.
And I do get that point. Fark, as a streamer, what do you think?
Yeah, I can see that point of view, because if you have same category, if it's only World of Warcraft, period, right? Mm-hmm. It feeds into that category and it promotes it as a more active and played game. Therefore, someone might feel better about investing their time in the game, right? A lot of players might not play the game if they feel like it's a dead game, right? So it's a mutually beneficial relationship between classic and retail that way, that they feed into the same streamline kind of, right? And they kind of also promote each other. But there's also the point of view that you mentioned, Bob, is you have to filter through God knows how many shadow words. It's like, okay, retail, okay, castle, castle, okay. Who's doing, is anyone doing tier 5? Okay, there's a tier 5 guy. What's this guy doing, right? So it's kind of like that. I do think also it would promote a lot of classic streamers much better. And it would promote growth for smaller streamers, those that usually don't get the spotlight, because you would, and the same was for retail, right? Because you would free up a lot of the spots. So kind of like the mid to lower streamers, they would grow a little bit more as well. So it has both upsides and downsides, but ironically enough, the most downsides go towards Asmongold and not towards someone like myself. So
yeah. Well, it was crazy because I did stream that one night that it was on, and I had double my average viewers. I had like 80 viewers because like there was only like 9 people in there streaming on it. You know, I was just like, I was like,
Tyrannosaur posting something or Crix, and they were like, #1 classic WoW streamer right now. Look at this.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just like, and over time we could have seen, you know, which one was more popular streaming wise, you know, and I think it would have been cool for a lot of those reasons. But I do get the overall reason of not splitting it. How about this though? What if we had a subcategory within World of Warcraft?
That's what I was going to say.
That would be amazing.
Is there a way to do that in Twitch?
I don't think they'd have that in any other thing, but I think that would be amazing for all of us and the game as a whole. You know, as like, you know, a nice medium where you could really help out both the game and the streamers.
I mean, what if there was like a tag that like was an official tag that you could use to just search like WoW Classic? Because everybody uses a different tag, right? Like everybody uses...
I've got tags in mine since they changed it to where you could do your own custom tags. I've definitely got like, you know, WOTLK, you know, and then I've got like WoW Classic in there. Yeah.
So here's my idea. When you click on World of Warcraft, all split the screen into half. Retail goes to left, Classic goes to right. Done. Solved. Just have like a big line, maybe like a Cataclysm line in the middle of the screen from Deathwing. Split it, you know.
Yeah, Barons.
Right.
We would
something like that.
We would literally be the Barons chat category.
Yeah. They could also like here's my idea for it. Keep the 2 separate categories. But on the kind of like on the homepage of Twitch, have only one World of Warcraft, and when you click on it, split that button into classic or retail, or like live and classic, and then it brings you to the category. Then you see how you said, like Blazing Bob, Crix, that's on classic, and then whoever still is on retail and relevant is on retail, right? So they could do it like that, right? Have that unified the WoW category. This is WoW, you want classic or live, and then here's the 2 subcategories. They could just do it like that, make an interactive button. I don't think, from development point of view, I don't think that would be that too difficult. I think with the tags would be a little bit more finicky. I think that would kind of be the easiest thing, just to make it more interactive from, at least from back-end point of view as well.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, if Twitch was willing to put in that little work, I think the viewers on Twitch would appreciate it a lot. Just being able, you know, even the people that watch both games, maybe something just happened on Classic, and you want to jump into everybody's stream and ask them what they think about this change. You know, people do that to me all the time. I know they're jumping to me. What do you think about this? Then they're jumping to Sarth. What do you think about this? Then they're jumping to Crix. You know, they're jumping to everybody trying to get their takes. Those are the days where we have to repeat our thoughts on it 70 times throughout the day, you know.
Also, I think it has to do with recommended tabs as well. So for like your viewer habits, the way machine learning works as well, it's like, oh, you like to watch World of Warcraft streamers. Hey, let me recommend you another World of Warcraft stream. Boom, it's retail. And then you're like, okay, you're thinking, okay, this website is garbage. Like, I don't want to watch retail. I hate retail. I hate channel ads. I hate it. Fuck Twitch. I hate it, right? So I think, also for retail guys, it's like, oh, I want to watch, someone who's super into like Mythic Plus, right? And they're like, oh no, I don't care about PvP. I only want to do Mythic Plus, right? And then you get like recommended, and it's like, huh? Who is this? What, Naxx? Oh, you boomers are doing Naxx? I don't want to watch this, bro. I want to watch this.
It goes both ways,
Yeah, it goes both ways for sure. It's split audience. We are kind of under the same roof, but I guess we got kind of like two different universities, and it is what it is. One are in social studies, and other ones are in science.
I feel like there's not a lot of people that go onto Twitch and they're like, I don't care if I watch retail or classic today. Let's see who's on, right? Like, unless they have very specific people that they want to see in both. But I feel like usually you look through Twitch and you are either looking for WoW Classic or Modern WoW, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think the population that you just described, those that overlap, are in such a vast minority, and even if they were, having one more tab open is such a minor inconvenience compared to all of the benefits you could stack on top of what we just forementioned, right?
Yeah, I think there's definitely overlap, but I think there is quite a bit of people that play both games, but I think the majority of those, quite a bit of people, play one of them predominantly, and will, like, when there's a new expansion, they'll go play up to max level, like on retail, or vice versa. With Wrath came out, they were like, oh well, I'll go check this out, do whatever I need to do for my extra mounts, and stuff like that. I think there is lots of those players, but players that really invest like their full time on both, I don't see that as being the norm.
Yeah, but even then, it's going to be filtered, no? Because it goes in waves. Let's say we go to tier 7 now, right? And then we're going to have tier whatever of Dragonflight. And it's going to be, okay, Dragonflight, the first tier of raiding. Okay, leveling, let's focus on that. And it's going to be, Old War is out. Okay, let's focus on that. Okay, now tier 2 of Dragonflight, let's focus on that. Even then, like, I feel like it still kind of goes in phases. It can still be, like, softly filtered out, right? Because it is what it is. Like, even someone who wants to carry on, let's say, a PvPer, from top of my head, there's a European rogue, name escapes me now, who does a lot of coaching with viewers and stuff for fun like that, and he does it on a regular, right? So I don't feel like it's just for streamers like that have a lot of informational and nice streams to get buried under like hordes and hordes of interest into Dragonflight tier 1 raiding or whatever, right? So I think the separation there would also benefit those people, and would also promote overall health of both, right? Like, he gets buried, maybe someone can find him, helps with discoverability as well. It just kind of brings to the point, like, yeah, if you're already famous, this is probably going to hurt you. If you're the king rank 1, sure, you still want to, you want to filter the millions. But if you're a small Andy, double-digit Andy that, gets 2 followers and he's, hey, this is my best day ever, you get 1 extra follower and you feel that much better.
Yep, so, sure. Definitely. Yeah, I think it's the best of both worlds, what we've kind of put out here. So Blizzard, Twitch, you can have that one for free. Help us out. Help yourself out and us out. It'll be good for everybody. All right. So the last thing on the news is there is a arena tournament going on right now, and they did talk about it. They did say that it was coming out prior to or basically the same time that they did the PvE tournament, but I just want to know why they don't pump these up more and get more word out about these. Like, why do they wait so long to like really put the info out? I feel like it'd be bigger.
Announced this one when they announced the Undying Challenge too. Their just marketing of it isn't great. Right?
Yeah, they could get all of us to market it free. Like, if they just give us some fun notes to talk about instead of just tournament happening. Like,
there you go.
Yeah, like, you know, there could be a lot more really cool things to come of it. But yeah, it just seems like they're dropping the ball on that. And this has a pretty good prize pool here too. The total of 100K.
Who is the when was this original blue post posted? Do you know?
This one was posted just this week, but It was posted on the 9th.
So, but we had the dates before. Is that what you're saying?
We had the dates before, and they really didn't like. It really didn't like. There was a preliminary like tournament where anybody could join of a certain ranking and stuff, but there just wasn't. It wasn't very clear how you get into that. So I'm sure most of the top PvPers found out about it. Maybe they get with them directly, but you want viewers. Like, that's what they're missing out on.
Right.
I don't know, Fark, do you do much PvP?
Well, funny enough, I organized 2 tournaments myself. Not bragging at all. The last one was a little bit hard, but we did RXP 2v2 on the TBC beta together with Cargos. It was like RXP sponsorship.
Oh, nice.
So we did that tournament. That was quite fun, and that was kind of like the first one of the first serious tournaments to be organized. If you discount the Osmond Gold's draft pick, so that was quite fun. And that got like decent clicks as well. And then we did another GT, aka Gold tourney on TBC. I think it was season 3. I'm not sure if it's season 4 or season 3. So we did another one, which was sponsored by GDKP. It was Gold tourney. So I have some experience when it comes to kind of like matchmaking and tournament organizing and shoutcasting. And promoting it is incredibly hard. And what we try to do the most is reach out to individual players and ask them for help and be like, hey, let's come together and let's make an event. And please help us, please help us promote it as much as you can. And we will promote all of you equally and as much as we can as well. So we did interviews after each series. After best of 3, someone gets knocked out, we would always do an interview with the person, with the team that got knocked out. We would interview team captains. So every team was interviewed, and we organized it in such a way where it was mutually beneficial relationship for everyone. If you promoted the tournament, we will promote you as well, right? Because all of the viewers are going to be funneled into this one stream pipe, right? And we're going to like channel it through that as well. I think it comes from organization. I don't know like how does it exactly work from Blizzard's end, but for sure, I think having maybe like media manager or someone like that organizing a pipeline of information and viewers, and create something that's mutually beneficial for content creators and for the company as well, because essentially more clicks, more notoriety, healthier player base, more level 80 Norton boosts purchased for your favorite TSG 3 versus 3 comp or something like that.
Yeah,
it is mutually beneficial at the end of the day. So as I said, I don't know why are they not promoting. Maybe they could collaborate a little bit more with their own in-house talent. For example, I know Zico is a commentator, so I don't know if he promoted it at all. I would like, my intuition would say I think he didn't. Maybe he mentioned it. Hey, you guys, I'm gonna be there, but like officially, maybe they could give out pets. Little Gladi pet. Maybe it could be like little Gladiator Murloc. Maybe you can do a reskin, every couple of months. And now it has blue helmet. Now it has slightly more blue helmet, stuff like that. Oh, content creators promoting this can give something out, in the future to the audience, which should also be super fun, right? Or Twitch drops, for example, I think would be super huge if they could do Twitch drops for the tournament itself.
Oh, yeah.
And also make it tiered. This is what PUBG does. Is they have directly in not just PUBG, it's League of Legends as well. What they do is they give you direct rewards if you watch their tournaments, right? And you have drops on Twitch. Guys, you go watch it. You watch it on YouTube, watch it whatever. You get the extra loot boxes, I think, in League of Legends. Just on top of my head, I know you get some essence or stuff like that. In PUBG, you also get like this currency where you can buy cosmetic rewards that are about this tournament, which is like worlds for PUBG or stuff like that. So they could definitely take a concept from those games and those esport organizations and implement it for World of Warcraft. But what worries me the most is this interview where once Blizzard game dev said, it was 10 years ago, so it's archaic. I mean, maybe it's not the case, but he said that PvP is not their focus. It is more about PvE. And typically that kind of has been the case. But then again, PvP is really huge and people do play this game for PvP only. There's quite a bit of people that, even in my guild, I have amazing players that don't care about PvE whatsoever, but they do participate and partake because
so that they can
want to
get certain items. Yep.
Yes, and they completely immerse themselves as hardcore raiders. They fully partake. They're fully a hardcore raider in full meaning of that word and term, because they want to have that privileges when Old War comes, hard modes, when TOGC comes, heroic mode, loot drops, right? Broad face heroic. There's already people talking, the unidentified whatever object, the trinket. Oh my God, who's going to get it first? Shadowborn, who's get it first? Don't tell anyone it's going to go to main tank, but stuff like that, So I don't know. It's a difficult question. I've been thinking about a lot myself. Once again, I apologize for the rant.
Oh, you're fine.
But it is
That's what we're here for.
It's from my point of view, it's kind of sad. It kind of feels like, you kind of feel like when you're a World of Warcraft enthusiastic player and you see that the company that's organizing this tournament doesn't promote its own tournament to the full extension and capabilities that they have, it kind of makes you feel like a lost kid in the park. Like you have two siblings, your parents forgot about you, they don't really care about you, stuff like that. So it would be nice if Blizzard cared a little bit more, if they showed some love.
I think drops could be really good. Drops could be great. I think also you just give, it would just benefit the big YouTubers, but you give a few of the big YouTubers for Classic, like you give them a few boosts to give out, and then you say they have to give them out on the video talking about the new tournament coming up. And they're going to hype it up because anytime you have a giveaway in the title, you're going to get a lot more clicks. So, I think there would be a lot of people willing to help out in that way, and it would be mutually beneficial. So I think the drops. I just don't see why they
put in the effort to do it and then not do it right. Right? Like that's my biggest complaint is like they put in all the effort to put the tournament together and then just didn't do anything else. And in any business, if you're going to put in the effort to do an event, you need to market it so that people show up, or why are you doing it?
There's so many questions, at least from my point of view, that I would like to ask. And I know the question that I'm going to ask will probably never be answered, but it's like, how do they operate behind the scenes, behind the curtain? Like right. Those are kind of my questions, and that's where I would like to probe. Like, do you guys have a marketing team? You talk to some streamers and content creators. Obviously, you talk to them, but do you operate with them? Like, who are you guys listening to? What are you doing? Who's working there? And like, do you have a system? Do you is there a boss with its own department and has other people who are reaching out? Stuff like that. So. Like, I personally have no idea how they operate and works. I don't know. Like, maybe it could be an issue as well. Like, maybe it could be an issue where they borrow from kind of like in-house talent and employees, right? They take people from retail because, like, for example, someone needs to run the camera, right? Mm-hmm. As I have done it myself, and it's been a massive headache as someone who has no official support. I can't express through how much headaches have I gone through to operate the arena camera frame thing.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that was a challenge and a half. But yeah, not to sidetrack too much. Like maybe someone who is a really good cameraman from that point of view comes from retail department, so they have to borrow him from retail. So there's a lot of questions like that I would like to kind of ask Blizzard if possible. Theoretically, I know it's not possible. Probably never, my questions are going to land on deaf ears. But there's a lot of questions like that, to ask, hey guys, how do you operate? What's the system? What's the infrastructure? How are you guys doing that? Especially someone that said, I organized 2 tournaments before, and it's incredibly difficult to pull it all together. And I kind of do have a perspective how to do it through Discord, because I have a lot of friends who have participated in tournaments as well. are really, really good players that have been in tournaments and kind of know how they organize the ladder. And they do have some moderators as well. And I know there's some overlap between retail and classic for sure in terms of staff and management. So it just, to me, I get an inkling that there's a lot of like, I might be wrong, don't quote me, but I feel it, maybe not on purpose, but classic is almost like an appendix from considered, to retail. I feel like it's not really fully fleshed out, and it's not. They don't consider it a mature product. They more consider it like a blind dark alley of retail. That at least that's what I.
It's getting better, but that's definitely that's it. When it started out, it's like, here, guys, we freaking made it. Take it, and then they're like, oh.
Don't complain.
Oh, you guys really like this. Oh.
Yeah.
What do we
it seems like they're good. They're good at giving, like, working with content creators when new expansions come out, right? But anything in between, I feel like kind of just goes unnoticed.
Yeah. What I think would be also amazing if it's anyhow doable, because it wasn't in the past. It was always kind of outside of Blizzard's operational range, so to speak. But if they could somehow organize shoutcasters for World First Race and provide the user interface, that they have custom user interface, right, for the race, which we saw on the Tier 7 10-man one. If they could organize something like that for World First Races, that would just be huge. That would be humongous.
Well,
through the roof.
In their defense, I don't know if they have that type of infrastructure for the live servers. That was done on a specific different server. I don't know. I'm assuming they have GM controls, and that's what they were using on that separate server. You know what I mean? Like, where you can warp anywhere, you can look over anybody, you can take anybody's point of view. But like, I don't know if they would ever allow anybody remotely, like, because most likely GM controls are not remote, or at least not remote without going into the office through a VPN, which is a virtual private network. My guess is GM controls can only operate from within the internal network. This is just coming from my background as a systems engineer, but we would have never given anybody the ability to remotely administer servers without coming into the office through a VPN, which basically makes it so like you're like figuratively sitting in the office if you use a VPN. So I don't know. That would be cool though. Be cool.
Yeah, maybe it's hard to pull off for sure because you have multiple regions. You have China as well. So like, what do you do there? But as if I recall correctly, they already have somewhat of a PvE esports scene, or they have been establishing thing as it has been established
China,
prior to Riot release.
Yeah, I mean, China's run by a completely different company. They just pay basically rights fees to Blizzard. Like, it's a completely different company though. So everything they do can often be very different from what we do here.
Don't they get double weekly resets? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard somewhere that they get double weekly resets. So
it's not exactly. So the way it works is they get because of the way stuff comes out, when something new hits, they get two instance resets in the time that we get one. Does that make sense? Because I believe like they could jump on for a day and do it for a day, and then in this, like, the week resets for their for whenever their raids reset, and they can go again right away. I think that, don't quote me, I could be wrong, but I think that's what I heard or what I read into a long time ago. But it was a long time ago that we covered that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see. So, yeah, because all the raids release on Thursday, so it could be that they get kind of like almost an extra lockout. Yeah,
Yeah,
Every tier, every tier, they get an extra lockout.
I'm pretty sure that's correct, but in the comments or write into us, let us know if that isn't correct. But I'm pretty sure that is correct. All right, well, I think that's going to be it for the news. Let's move into
Bobby, we need to have a talk about this World of Warcraft Classic. Do I look like I know what a WoW token is?
All right, so in this week's discussion, we're getting to know Fark. And Fark's pretty famous, right? You've got a pretty big name in the private server scene. I know we're not supposed to talk about that, but it was a thing, and we do on this podcast. It's okay.
Infamous.
Why don't you give us first off? Why don't you give us a little background on when you started playing WoW, like the original, what is known as retail now? Did you start playing that? Any certain expansion?
Absolutely. So basically, when first year of high school, a friend of mine came up with a really scratched up, busted CD, and he said, "Yo, there is this thing. It's called World of Warcraft, and you plug it in, but you kind of have to create an account, and you need to play on this server." And I'm like, "Yo, I'm gonna check it out." So
this sounds amazing.
This sounds amazing. So I'm gonna check it out, right? So I played on one of the first private servers ever created on patch 1.10. That was on original vanilla. Those private servers were some of the worst scripted, complete meme private servers. But you could make a character. You could kind of quest. Talents kind of worked. And abilities worked sometimes. But the world was absolutely amazing, right? So coming as someone who was insane World of Warcraft 3 fan and played not just the campaign and all the other maps that you could find for Warcraft 3, I fell in love with it. That was like crack. That was like weed for Snoop Dogg, man. I fell in love with it. I played on those private servers for, I would say, 3 or 4 months, and then it was TBC was about to come out, and I'm like,
okay, so wait, hold on. You played private servers before ever touching the actual WoW?
Exactly. Vanilla was out, and I played on one very first private servers. You had a population of 10 players. Everyone knew each other. We used forums to communicate if we had any bags or who had leatherworking or anything. It was super, super niche. It was insanely niche. It was insanely niche.
Because I didn't hear about the first private server until after TBC launched, and a bunch of my friends were like, "We're going to go play this old one. We don't like TBC." I was like, really? That sounds scary. You lose your character or something. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So basically after those private servers, it was a fun experience for sure. But I always felt how would the game feel if I played it properly? How would the game feel? Because I explored the whole world, on the night of starting zone. And now you're an orc, now you're a troll. I would explore stuff, but I was always man, I always kind of wonder how does it feel when everything works properly. So,
or at least more correctly, maybe.
Yeah. TBC launched, and that's kind of when I picked up the game. I was Hunter player and Paladin player in TBC. I was never really hardcore, kind of played for fun, dabbled in PvP here and there, did some PvE here and there, but nothing too serious. With start of Wrath as well, I played, but it was never too serious. It was always, I'm going to do raid here and there. I completed all of the raids during Wrath. And then really during Kada, I don't know, something just clicked with me, and I was like, okay, we need to get serious now. It's time to get some serious rating. It's time to, get better in PvP. I picked up DK in PvP, and I really fell in love with playing Hunter during Kada as well. That's when they finally changed it to focus, because Wrath was mana, and initially, fun story, it was supposed to be focused just like pets, right? But never fully implemented it.
Mana never made sense for hunters to me.
Right? Yeah, it never made sense. And there was a patch in Dragon Soul. I remember when they finally buffed. Dragon Soul was already out, right? And marksmanship was the dominant spec. And then they on the very last mini patch, right? They buffed survival, and I just fell in love with that and played Hunter, in a hardcore guild, and played all the way until Mob Throne of Thunder, and that's when I had to tap out. I dipped out. There was something about those dailies on that island, man. I didn't like collecting those coins. Didn't like doing those dailies. I just kind of fell out of the game. And middle of Mists of Pandaria, came back just for Siege of Orgrimmar, finished it once, and after that,
dude, I came back. I came back once in Mists. Right, they were doing some recruit a friend. You get an instant boost to 85. I was like, okay, I'll come back. Because until Classic, I always hated leveling. Like, I've actually grown to love leveling and have a ton of alts now. But, like, I used to always hate it. I was like, end game or nothing. Like, and so I came back to MoP. And it's like, I was looking around, kind of confused what everything was going on. Like, because I'd quit in Kata, middle of the second raid tier. And, like, I opened up the talents. I looked at the talents and I was like, /quit. That was it. Yeah, I was just like, dude, that was one of the coolest aspects of the game. What the hell just happened? Like, and so I just didn't come back. But sorry to interrupt you, but yeah, like MoP and Kata turned me off as well.
I still because I played MoP and Kata recently as well on the Voldemort servers, right? And MoP is fun for sure. I think a lot of current Wrath players would enjoy MoP and Kata as well, because also 10-man becomes a thing.
That's what Scotty J keeps trying to tell me, but I don't know, man.
It does have its charm if you want to be more casual, if you want to play 10-man only. Personally, again, logistically, I wouldn't do that. We would still run 25-man splits for multiple reasons, but you can't play as 10-man. If you ever had like 4 friends and you're like, hey man, kind of want us all to play together, but we can't because we never can sync in, and all of a sudden you can be okay, we need one healer and a little bit of DPS, let's go, right?
Yeah, so more chill environment for people that still want a challenge, but
yeah,
I got it.
And you still have your talent points. They're a bit more condensed, right? You get a talent point every 2 levels, but you still do have talent trees. There's still some customization when it comes to that as well.
Oh yeah, because they didn't actually. When was it? It was in MoP that they changed it to the weird grid thing, but it wasn't at the beginning, right?
No. So Cataclysm, you get talent point every 2 levels.
Yeah, it got
so the talent tree is a lot smaller, right?
And you have to go all the way down, which we all kind of thought kind of sucked, like from like a whole like theory crafting. But we had Willie and Scotty J on to talk about this. It seems like with some of the way the moves are set up, if you were able to do hybrid specs with the way they set up Cataclysm talents, it would like everybody would be a hybrid, because of like you'd be able to get so many extra strong moves. But I don't know. I haven't never I didn't play enough, during after they changed talents to really know how it kind of shook out.
It kills creativity. The way I see it, it kills a part of creativity. So there's this hybrid rogue spec. I'm pretty sure you talked
with Simonize about it. Oh yeah,
exactly. So there's this hybrid rogue spec which promotes like a lot of creativity. It's like, hey guys, Fell Striker, look at this, look what you can do. Boom, trash DPS 25,000, amazing, right?
Right.
So it kills that creativity, but it also gives Blizzard opportunity to balance the game much better, right? It's like, okay, we know for sure Assassination Room goes here, and then they have 2 other options. They have 10 extra talent points, just from the top of my head. Again, don't quote me. They have 10 extra talent points that they can put either in combat or sub. What do they look like?
Pretty sure that's correct, because it's 41 total.
Yeah, so when it comes to that point of view, you can also understand them. It's a double-edged sword. You do kill creativity, but you say, okay, we can better define what an assassination rogue means and what they can do in the grand scheme of things. That is PvE, right? And they can do the same things when it comes to PvP. And if you look at the first tiers, if you could potentially pull up Cataclysm talent points, you could see that the first tiers of every talent tree are kind of like more utility based or support based. So that's how they balance that for PvP in a sneaky way. Is those initial talent points would kind of add more fluff and more flair, and would more often than not increase your damage. Sometimes they would, sometimes they wouldn't, right? So that was like from development point of view, I can see how it's beneficial, and kind of from player point of view, I can see like, I don't get to play around, and I don't get to do 20-20-20 or something like that. Something goofy.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there.
It's a balanced game, though, when people have so much freedom, right? Because you can't anticipate everything.
But it's so much fun. I mean, if we had this locking system, Simon Eyes would have never come up with this hybrid spec. There's just so many cool things to be done with, these types of things.
I agree, but you could also argue that those things weren't intended, and it wasn't intended that there would be, this power move that you could do. And right now it's fine, but as the game gets more mature and more complicated, right, those certain things can really backfire, right? You can have really like way overpowered one class just because of this one little change that they made, and then it affects the entire game, right?
Well, I'm surprised that I thought for sure they would make the Fell Striker only work at level 60 and up and have that like decreased proc rate after level 60 type of deal. I said that from the beginning when it first got found out, but they haven't. And I think every non-rogue wants that to happen, but as a rogue player, it's pretty fun to use that spec on trash. It makes trash pretty exciting, but I do get it. It's just I feel like the fun is so much greater.
I think there are two different schools of thought there, and one is, hey, let's have this sandboxy type of game where we give a lot of freedom to the players, and then a different type would be like, okay, no, let's introduce these players to as much of an even playing field as possible so that we can promote skill expression. Because if you even out the playing field, that's where the individual skill and teamwork shines out the most, right? So you do kill innovation a little bit from the sandbox point of view, but you also promote a lot of teamwork and synergy like that, like who can rotate cooldowns better, who can work the numbers a little bit more. There's still quite a bit of things to do, even if the same principle that we had in Cataclysm was in Raft. I still think there would still be quite a bit of innovation when it comes to tactics, and the meta would still shift simply because the numbers are different than we had in original Wrath, or numbers are different than compared to some other servers that even I played recently, right? So there's always going to be some innovation and something to be done. Even like, for example, if you get Seasonal Mastery, and let's say they buff HP of the bosses by additional 50%, all right? Let's say the damage stays the same of the bosses, like damage taken for tanks in the raid, but they buff HP. Let's say it's like, I don't know, the season of health or something like that. Wonky, just from top of my head. Don't take this comment serious, all right? That would change the meta as well. As I said, like Unholy DKs would be less efficient simply because, the HP and the damage of the gargoyle would be different, right? And the kill timers, the kill times would be extended very much so. So you would have to do like certain class mechanics, let's say Gluth. Something that surprised me completely is like, I think we did Decimate maybe once. And that's kind of what I see as a bad raid design, in my opinion, is when raids can skip mechanics. That's why I was never personally a fan of Vanilla Naxx, because I would just see raids pop roll buffs. And it was more of a contest who can not rage the most when they lose brawl buffs, and who can focus the most nuking the boss. Like even back in the classic vanilla, if you look at Gluth, and it's just one example, I don't want to die on this hill, but it's just one example. Like you would just nuke this boss and it was effectively a target dummy. Same thing happens right now. What we do is we use frost mages. I take one stack, the feral takes over. I go to the zombies. I do my dance with the zombies for like 30 seconds. Okay, the boss is next. Boom, let's go. Thaddeus, left, right, go, right? And if you introduce like that's a lot of the times buff HP is a bad concept, but at that specific boss, if you buff HP off the boss, all of a sudden you do have to handle zombies. You can't kite the zombies close to the boss because when Decimate comes, they're just going to run into the boss. And when you buff the HP of the zombies, you can't just, I'll do one hurricane, they're going to die. No, you have to kite them properly. You have to invest resources. So who is more flexible? Which tank can jump around and control more? How good are you at shot calling when it comes to Holy Wrath? Do you maybe bring a Shockwave Prot Warrior? All of a sudden, Prot Warrior is no more trash tier. Holy moly, they have Shockwave, stuff like that. Is this Prot Warrior hit cap does this Prot Warrior have at least 6% hit cap because zombies are level 81? Did this Prot Warrior optimize for this? There's so much that goes into it. So that's kind of why I think...
yeah.
I don't know where I was going with this. To be
well,
honest,
just like speaking to that point on Gluth, last night I am main taking our second raid. We had a pug paladin as the second tank, and he didn't understand what we wanted him to do on Gluth, to taunt off of me at 4 stacks and like swap back and forth. And so he's back there kiting and taking all the zombies. But we have so much DPS, even in this half pug raid, that I was able to go ahead and go up to 8 stacks and tank the boss until he was at like 3%. And then we were able to kill him. I died, but I mean, like, it was still like that would have never happened or been possible had he had, just like even 25% more health, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, and there's also the thing with the way scaling works in certain things. Like, first of all, is when you have to account everything that we have: knowledge, hardware, network, better network, right? Stuff like that. We're not playing on 15 FPS, although recently I can't, I've been lagging my brains out in raids, but more often than not, we have stable connection, stuff like that. And then historically, if you look at average player performance, we did like 2K, 3K DPS back in the day, right? If you look at tank spot, like you can see a dude is just chilling, like doing 2500 DPS. If you have a DPS right now doing 2500, he is gray parsing, and the rest of your 15 raiders are hardcore raging on Discord, sending messages. Why is this guy getting loot? He's a waste of loot. Get him out of the guild. Blah blah blah. Right. So it's completely different. And I think, in my opinion, when it comes to like HP of certain bosses, I think Blizzard released much weaker version of Naxx that we should have gotten. I don't know if you have noticed or not. Maybe it's just me, but I think player base is a little bit bored of Naxx almost. It's kind of like a pushover. It's a little bit too easy, right?
If you're not doing alts and enjoying the fact that it's easy and you can get into groups easy,
exactly,
like, then you're probably pretty freaking bored. Yes. Like, and I mean, luckily we have achievements to kind of like give us an extra thing, but once you do them, then they're done. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So.
Well, in Naxx in vanilla, not a lot of people completed in the original Wrath. That's why bringing it back wasn't a big deal, right? But we all feel like we just did this, and now we're doing it again, and it's a lot easier.
Yeah, night and day easier. Okay.
Yeah. I personally feel like the Naxx should be an introduction to Wrath of the Lich King for sure. It shouldn't be like mind-numbingly hard to the point where you're just wiping and wiping and wiping. It shouldn't be that. But like, even if you look at like week 1, we rolled over Saffron so easy. We did this whole sport thing, right? We organized groups. We had 3 groups with full spore buffs. We zone into Saffron. We pop plus potions, everything. Boom, he's dead within minute 25. And the question has to be asked, like, that is kind of, an iconic fight. You only have one air phase and you're in pre-bis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Granted, we were sweaty, min-maxed, and full enchants, gems, yada, 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 But still, it felt too easy for me personally. Like, I think it was just too easy. And I think that yes, damage doesn't. You can't, say, oh, just do triple damage. But I think the HP values should have been buffed a little bit, and that's not the answer always. But I think in this case,
were.
if the boss,
Next,
I think in this specific case,
yeah,
if the bosses fall over after 1 minute, then obviously, there's
they didn't buff them enough, probably.
Yeah,
but they buffed them by like 25 or 30% during the beta, so they definitely did buff them.
Yeah, but here is the thing: 25% of a meme is still a meme.
Right.
If you get what I mean, it's
I
like
always thought they should do it percentage based for mechanics, right? Like once they get to a certain percentage, you get the mechanic, and that way it doesn't.
Which they do that a lot later on. Like this was a raid. Sure. This was a raid designed in vanilla, and they just kind of reworked it and threw it back out there. But Ulduar and stuff does have a lot of that. Like Ulduar is going to be a different game. I think the big guilds are going to beat it fast, but it's going to be a different game.
I just hope they don't keep Naxx too long, because I think people will get really burnt out and bored.
I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I think Trash is fine as it is. I don't think Trash needs any nerfs or buffs. I mean, it's completely fine.
I'm a Trash hater. I love the fact that in Wrath, like everybody gets an AoE and we can just bust through Trash, because Trash rarely drops the epics, and I like seeing the epics drop. And I like doing, you're probably the same way as a former private server player. I care the most about the bosses. I try hard on the Trash out of respect for the other people in my raid. Because if I could just AFK during it, I would. But like, I can't do that because that would be extremely rude, and like, I got to give them my all, right?
Yeah, I don't think Trash is overtuned or undertuned, so I think it's fine.
Oh, TOC is actually when I quit in. TOC was not I don't know, man. I was not a huge fan of TOC. That's like, I quit before ICC in original Wrath, but at the same time, we were running every single version of it every week, and it just got really old really fast. It might be a lot more fun now that we'll probably still want to go back to Ulduar with the item level bump. So, and you can only do one, you can only do either heroic or regular, so like that might help it. But I just remember being like, I can't do this again. Like, so sometimes Trash does space it out, like there's a happy medium there somewhere, in my opinion. But hey, we've gotten way off track. We need to get back on to you. It's been a good tangent, but I want to know, so you quit. Did you immediately go back to private servers, or did you take like a few years break and then tell us how you got back into private servers?
Yeah, sorry, absolutely. I absolutely didn't touch the game for years. I would say when they were no, actually, I'm lying. I'm lying. I bought Warlords of Draenor in hopes it's going to be TBC 2.0. I went into the garrison. I saw that put in a phone minigame into the garrison. I immediately uninstalled the game and said never. So I did give Blizzard extra hundreds of bucks or whatever.
Are you talking about what was it called?
Draenor.
No, but the game, the little phone mini game. You're talking about Peggle?
No, they had there was era of these cringe RPG phone games, and they were all the same. They would give you so much for free initially, and then you would essentially hit the wall, and the only way you beat this wall is with your credit card, and that's what the Garrison reminded me of. And I'm like, no, come on, guys, this is not the legacy of World of Warcraft.
So I thought you were talking about Peggle, and I remember
No, Peggle is amazing.
Well, I remember the Peggle add-on coming out. I don't know if it was late Wrath or early Cataclysm. It probably went out before, but it got really popular, right? And I remember during progression raids, the way progression would work is you would, do 1 to 3 pulls on the boss, and then everybody would stop, discuss, what was done wrong, try and think, like everybody brainstorm on how we could maybe use something else or try something else. But, it'd be like a little, 5 to 10 minute talk, and then we'd go back to doing a few more polls, right? Well, people started to play Peggle during this time. And then we'd get to the boss try. We'd be like, dude, we said we were going to try this. What are you doing? And they'd be like, oh, sorry. And you knew that fucker was playing Peggle during the talk. So
now that you remind me, I think there was, I think I remember an occurrence that happened in the original Riot where someone played Peggle, and it had this auto report in Say Chat, auto update of high score. And I remember like the raid leader at the time just butchered this guy on Ventrilo. You're playing, you're not healing at all. You can't shield whether you're playing Peggle. Get the fuck out of the raid.
There was a lot of people mad because it's just like, dude, we needed to talk about this.
If you're gonna do it, maybe be smart enough not to turn on your auto messages, right? Like, let's be real here.
Yeah, I think the apps, didn't have a lot of options back in the day, the add-ons. But it's funny.
It was bare bones. Yeah.
Oh my God. It's like when somebody calls in sick to work and then they post pictures on Facebook of themselves like doing something really fun, and you're just like, really? You just don't. So you logged in.
I logged into Warlords of Draenor, uninstalled it immediately. Just, gave it a try. As I said, I thought it was going to be like really amazing. Didn't touch the game forever. The longest time, as I said, I quit like mid mop, early mop, mid mop. Didn't touch the game until I think I got into, like, for some reason just got into TBC private servers, right? And I got to play my hunter again, and I really enjoyed the one button macro, the famous one button macro. And yes, it worked on private servers. It was so much fun. You still had to multi-shot, and it was a trap here and there and stuff like that. You couldn't like fully AFK, but it was like super fun. And then they announced Classic, and I was like, so they're going back to vanilla, and I'm like, yeah, I might give it a crack. I'm not really much a vanilla guy, but sure, I'll give it a go. And lo and behold, I was right. I'm definitely not a vanilla guy. Definitely don't like 40-man raids. Definitely don't like world buffs or collecting them, for sure. So I pretty much dipped out after a while, and have been playing Warmane ever since. I played like all 3 seasonal servers on Warmane, and there was another seasonal server that we also played on, because that's kind of like the meme. Always go fresh, right? So we would play those. I did play some TBC as well, but I never really clicked fully with TBC because I already played it so much. Played it so much on private servers. For me, there was never really like, I really want to kill Illidan again. I really want to progress Moor again. For me, it was like, oh God, I really don't want to do progress. I don't really want to do Moor again. Please, no, I don't want to do the guards. Right. So
I bet it was like nuts hard on private servers too.
Also, if I might go on a small rant here, a lot of the stuff where people hate private servers, I can understand where it comes from, but I think it's a little bit, it's behind the curtain of math. So when people said that warriors are not going to be viable, they were specifically talking about tier 4 and tier 5. Now, to kind of explain where private server mentality for TBC was, no one cared about tier 4.
Yep.
You leveled, you got some basic epics. 2 weeks later, tier 5 was open, right? It was not like on a classic, right? So tier 4 was always considered a meme historically. The same with tier 7. It is always considered a meme. Like even like round first tier 7s was, you got round first tier 7. Okay, see you in Ulduar. Sit down, kid. It was kind of that kind of attitude, right? And then Lady Vash had, I think, 15 million HP or something like that on private servers, like insane amount of HP, right? So once you put that into perspective, KT as well, once you put that into perspective, you have to understand that the phase 3 was incredibly hard for Lady Vash, right? And she was spitting poison more often. So what ends up happening on Lady Vash, you can't have these warriors sitting in poison, right? And you need to have someone who's ranged and who can control this much better. So the meta was simply different. The raw DPS that the warrior can do is pretty much the same. It's within the margin of error, but it's just simply how they were coded, right? And it's like the Atlantis code and the code that they had, and the scaling that they had was just completely different. You would see warriors being used in tier 6. You would see warriors being used for Sunwell proc for sure. You could see the rogues popping off in glaives. That was for sure a thing. It's just that early warriors were never really catered to. And then when you had buffed Muru, people were like, okay, man, we need tons of Seed of Corruption. Let's just throw freaking 8 warlocks at this boss. And that's what people played around there. Like, okay, we need to gear warlocks because Muru is just hard stuck on. We're not going to defeat Muru with 8 warriors, but we might with 8 warlocks, right? Oh, yeah. So it was different scaling, right?
Well, and we talked about that early on, when we were talking about warriors were going to have a tough time. We kept trying to emphasize it's not because warriors do bad damage necessarily right at the beginning. It's because mechanics just don't like melee. And if you were doing Lady Vash or TK, with a bunch of melee before the nerf, I mean, you were probably doing it wrong unless you were all getting ogre suits and everything else. You were just making it harder on your self, and I think that's what everybody didn't understand when people said warriors are going to be bad to start off with. Here in Wrath, warriors are just really bad to start off with.
Yeah, there was also a lot of. If I'm also talking about that a bit, you can always interject me. But when it comes to theory crafting between Wrath and TVC private servers, Wrath is miles ahead. We're talking light years ahead of TVC, right?
Really?
Yeah, we're the most private server, or the most popular private servers, right?
By far, we're talking about a solid decade of proper experience and understanding of the game. Plus, on top of that, until recently, we had a site called World of Logs, not to be confused with Warcraft logs, where we had all of the original logs from 335 client. So we would know, how does Valanir work? How does the proc of Valanir work? How is Dancing Rune weapon supposed to be scripted? We had all of this information from back in the day stored, right? So people could always, they could always reality check developers and be like, hey guys, Dancing Rune weapon is doing 3 times the damage than it's supposed to. Can you fix that? And he's like, oh, you base this on what? Random player. And well, check this out. We have World of Logs, blah, blah, yada, yada, yada. There's a lot of bugs as well with Valanir where you could, it would proc all the time and, you would get insane absorptions, and they fixed that as well eventually. So there's a lot of theory crafting that went into as well with classes. Plus, Ian Hazekostas, the retail main dev himself, he started Elitist Jerks, and that has been titanium skeleton for all of the theory crafting, right? That website and those forums, and people took it to the next level, and just played countless of hours when it comes to Wrath 335 or 3.4 client that we use. It's irrelevant. Same iteration, different name, really. But yeah, that's kind of why when people said warriors are going to be Garbo tier, that's math. There's nothing that you can do. There's nothing that you can do about it. That's just the scaling. That's the nature of the 335. That's how they start, right? There's small changes, as I've said before. There's the Unholy DK, massive gargoyle stacks. And typically on private servers, we would never bring Unholy DKs because Patchwork alone, I think, on week 1 was solid at least minute longer for even good guilds. So that's when you compare warlocks like that as well, they were also doing 8K, 9K DPS on Patchwork. Well, it's Unholy DK, even the best ones, they couldn't compete simply because, okay, you did 10K burst and now you just start drop, boom. And, they didn't do as much damage comparatively as they do with the lower HP values. And on top of that, the reason why meta was different, so not so drastically different, but we didn't prior the Unholy DKs that much, at least not in tier 7, is because everyone wanted to gear warlocks for Ulduar. And it's what I mentioned before, is everyone cared about completing Ulduar, and it's very hard raid, where Yogg-Saron is the last boss, and even with one light, it's a son of a gun last phase to battle with it. You have constantly ads coming at you. You have insanity that you need to care about. That there's aggro snap threat that you also need to care about on the ads. Even if you have Torrent that's going to kill the ads, you need to manage it properly. So Warlocks were really good for that when it comes to Mimiran fighter, right? Firefighter. If you remember the last phase, you have body, chest, and head. And all of those 3 targets are pretty much in execute range for Warlocks in the hardest phase being phase 4. And then also when you look at Physics, also another hard mode. Affliction Warlocks are amazing. They're absolutely amazing on that fight, right? They just pretty much delete that fight. They can do upwards. I'm pretty sure they can do more than 60-70k DPS on that fight. I'm sure that even tryhards in current iteration are going to reach 20k DPS. So it's just like the old war and the buffs from old war just dictated the meta so much. No one really cared about Naxx, and that's where that meta comes from. Again, I apologize for the long rant, but I felt like it's something that I wanted to share when it comes to perception of private servers. Oh, they're toxic. Yes, we are toxic. I inherently as well come from this toxic cesspool called Chernobyl of private servers, and inherently, especially us that come from Eastern Europe or Balkan, we're a bit different. We're a bit special nutcases for sure. But sometimes there's also a language barrier, and there's guy and says, no, DK bad, not this,
Well, so you kind of covered my other question about why did you come back to Classic, but we'll just change it a bit. Why did you come back for Wrath then?
Oh man, it's just the best, bro. It's just the best by far. It's just everything sits perfectly, man. Threat is finally fixed. You don't hate your life. You have divine play. Here is how I view World of Warcraft. Someone's gonna flame the everling frick of me. Go ahead. Once again, it's a polarizing opinion, but here it goes. Vanilla World of Warcraft is beta. Vanilla World of Warcraft is alpha version of the game. TBC is beta, and finally with 3.0 we get the final product. That's how I see World of Warcraft. Sorry,
I think it's the perfect, almost perfect mix of ease, quality of life changes to the game, along with actually most classes having an actual rotation is the biggest thing for me, and that's why I can't imagine going back to Seasons of Mastery now, because I've been playing all these different classes and I could do so many different things. It's night and day.
I would disagree. I don't have a rotation anymore, unfortunately.
Bubble.
Shield.
Well, even that is going to have some. Especially, I'm sure you're going to reach Lich King with the defile and everything and stuff like that. It's going to have some skill factor there as well for sure. Yeah. So it's going to be a very impactful and important. For me, coming from Warmane back to TBC and having only consecration and a judgment, man, the judgment was also mean. It just felt like, okay, I don't have my hammer, I don't have my shield, I don't have my shield of the righteous, hammer of the righteous. I didn't have my hand of salvation, nothing. And I would go and I really hated that. I just I could never fully immerse myself in TBC. I finished tier 6 with the GDKP roster, had fun, had a blast. And after that, I was like, nope, I'm going back to Warmane, see on beta. I'm not touching this. No way. It just it doesn't feel like a finished product, right? And I could never immerse myself in the class identity as well. It's like, I am Protection Paladin that goes out of mana eventually, and I have to work around with consumes meticulously. Otherwise, I'm not optimal. Yeah. It doesn't really sit well, right? The class balance, you have in this lore, the paladins are amazing, and Uther Lightbringer has a hammer and he smacks undead across the face, boom, shatters the jaw from Western Plaguelands into Eastern. You know what I mean? Like, holy moly, so epic. And then finally, everything clicks perfectly. If you did the Death Knight starting zone, right, where you have Uther he comes in and everything clicks in. They're like red paladins finally are not like a meme, right? And the DKs and that whole the whole expansion, the field, everything, the lore behind it, the cinematics, the zones, quests, rotations, talents, everything just clicks together so perfectly.
I know some people aren't for them, but I love them. They're little things I could do to feel that burst of like when you get a piece of gear, but I don't have to do them. It's wonderful. Like I could choose to do them, so therefore I want to do them more.
If you want.
Yeah, and it makes me want me to do them more because I don't have to do it.
Also, dual spec, if I might add. I think
I was asking for that at the very beginning of this episode 1 of this podcast. I was like, we need this, and that was like at the start of it was before, like right before AQ launched is when I asked for it. I was like, give it to us. Why don't we have it? What the hell?
So here's the thing. I had this discussion as well with Blast or Blaze, TBC Red Paladin. I don't know if you know him or not. Doesn't matter. I think he.
I don't know, but I know of him. Yeah, I know of him.
I hated the fact that we didn't have dual spec in TBC because we had triple spec in TBC and private servers, right?
Oh no!
Yeah, amazing, best thing ever, right? And it's such an inconvenience. First of all, you don't get the full depth of your class. Let's say you're really locked into one spec. Not necessarily. Some to play devil's advocate, someone can always say, "Oh, just Hearthstone, you muppet, go respec in Orgrimmar." You're so stupid. Yeah, let's ask the other 24 people how they feel about you going to Hearthstone and then you need to summon and then you need to go out and you need to go to the summoning stone because they changed it so that you can't summon inside the raid, so you need to go summon there. So you need to have a hunter with aspect of the pack, but it's all on party based, so you need to swap them in the party, but you need to swap them back out of the party again. Okay, so now you need to rebuff again. Okay, but it's also party based, so you need to rebuff that party specifically, right? And God forbid that you got ganked in the process of that. Okay, are you finally respec? And on top of that, guess what? If you misclicked only once, nope, you need to go and Hearthstone again. But no, now you need to ask for a mage portal. And now your mage is AFK. Why is the mage AFK? Oh no, like his dog puked. Now you need to sub the mage. Okay, I'm trolling now, but yeah, it's just it kills your rage.
We've all been there, right?
And like I always wanted dual specs so that people could have one PvP spec and one PvE spec, but I'm having so much fun with PvE. Both of my characters have 2 PvE specs right now, and I don't even have a PvP spec on either of them. And it's really funny. But I've always felt that like PvP, if you go into a BG, that should be a completely separate spec. You should be able to have, because it doesn't make sense that you ever go in as a PvE spec unless you're the tank in Alterac Valley. You know what I mean? Like there's just it's such different. Even if you're playing a prop warrior in PvP, you're taking a lot of different talents. Like, so I don't know, man. Like I feel like PvP should have always had a different spec from the very beginning. And I just think dual spec was the best thing they ever put into the game. And why it wasn't put back into Classic, I have no idea. And so many people made arguments, and the arguments I just always thought were bad. Like the arguments were, it's just, yeah. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, give me a good argument to why we shouldn't have it. And the only one I ever heard was it makes PvE content easier because you can switch in and out of heals or DPS or tanks at DPS at your whim. But I was like, whatever.
I would say I hardcore disagree with that statement. I couldn't disagree anymore with that statement because necessarily your Shadow Priest is not going to be a good Holy Priest. Not necessarily your Red Paladin knows what he's doing as Holy, right? And there's a lot of it that it comes into it. You need to have a chance, reputation. Do you know what you're doing? You can't just, I'm just going to put spell power.
Yeah, right? 2 different gear sets and stuff. But that was the only argument that semi made sense to me. I'm not saying like I thought it was a reason to not put it in, but that was the only one that actually was like a okay argument, in my opinion. Like the rest of the arguments were like, it's just, it's not in the spirit of the game. And I'm like, okay, that's not an argument. Like, you know what I mean?
I can see how it can be considered easier because it removes the inconvenience, but the difficulty of the raid encounter should already be at a respectable level, right? So I don't think the inconvenience of logistics of who should play which spec and butcher people's will and or motivation to play the spec should be the gate. I think the gate should be skill of the player rather than the logistics of how do you enter this spec or how do you enable those talents. I think the game should always promote or push players in a such way where they can always learn something new and or get better playstyle. And it also is going to reduce burnout. For example, you said you have 2 PvE specs. I like to believe that you also enjoy the game quite a bit more if you have another PvE spec and you're like, okay, so this is how DPS point of view is on this fight. Kind of cool. And again, gives a different perception. Oh, now I need hit. Okay, expertise, crit. What about crit? What are we doing with haste? Haste, haste, stuff like that.
On the rogue, it's I should be playing assassination and then the Simonize hybrid spec, but I'm a lover of combat rogues, and I got Calamity's Grasp the first raid, so I was like, well, I made the decision easy. I'm going combat, but I do go that, if we're going to have a prolonged trash phase, I do go that hybrid spec just to get more damage on the ads, and I don't have to with the raid that I'm in, but it makes it more fun for me. Yeah. And then on my warrior, I just love being able to farm whatever dungeon I am want and make tons of cash with all the gear I have on the prop warrior using the revenge spam spec, So it's just turned in, I'm having more fun with PvE, and it sucks because I really enjoy PvP too, but I'll get into it later, but
yeah.
I would even say, release Penta spec and then put 60-second hard lock timer on swapping specs or something like that.
Yeah, we've had that idea too, for speed runs and stuff to to make it harder on that. If you're gonna do it, you gotta have a really good reason to do it, type of thing. Because even we were talking to Simonize just the other day in the segment you're gonna hear. Well, no, actually, I think we were talking about it just off camera. But either way, they were talking about he doesn't swap his spec during lots of times during the speed runs because it actually hurts your time. So he's actually working on a spec that's going to be mutilate but still go down combat quite a bit, so that he can get the best of both worlds, and he'll use it for just 2 of the wings, the two wings that have the most trash. He'll just use that spec there and just not swap, which I thought was I was like, oh, okay, I like that.
How long does it take to swap specs?
It doesn't 10 seconds.
Yeah, it doesn't take a ton of time, but if you're in a speed run, you guys are flying, it's you think we go fast, see a speed run.
Yeah, and I think if they added a 60-second cooldown and they added additional tabs, you have dual spec, you have spec 1, spec 2, I think it would be completely okay to have spec 3, spec 4, because even right now you sometimes have the inconvenience of, hey, I want a PvP, right? I want to be a tank, I want to be a DPS in some fights, and I also want a PvP. And someone wants to do that, they always have to kind of cannibalize one spec in a certain way.
Yep.
And that's also something that you aforementioned that killed a lot of potential PvP in TBC, because I remember talking with a lot of guys and they said, listen, there's no way in hell I'm going to spend 100 gold every week just to cap my 2 steam. There's no way I'm going to do that, right?
Yep.
No shot. I'm not doing that, right? And I think when you hear comments like that, it kind of begs the question, man, is it really worth it to have this fictive gold sink in the game through talent points and playstyle of the players? It did make a lot of sense back in the day, for sure, right? Where it was a little where someone's identity was more tied to a class and spec, right? When someone was a holy paladin, you could, that guy is the holy paladin, you know what I mean? But that was then. That was 2007, 2008. Those were those times. There were different times, right? Our game was much more social. Also, something that I think is vastly different compared to back in the day. People would spend time on Ventrilo. That was kind of the early Facebook for gamers, right? Your guild, your social connections. Whereas nowadays, you get server discords. Everyone knows everyone. You have Twitch. You have Reddit. You have so many different social networking opportunities where it's not just your guild, and everything is so more fast-paced and meta-driven, where those systems feel really archaic, and instead of promoting something and bringing benefit to your class identity, they rather take it away from you. Because a lot of us know the basics, right? A lot of us know that, hey, if you spam holy light constantly and don't pay attention to your mana, you're going to go boom. So stuff like that doesn't have to be explained most of the time to healers, It's just the basics. And now I feel like the average raider is a lot smarter and a lot more experienced, and therefore we can introduce these systems and give them to players and let people experience the game how they want. If they want 3 specs, 4 specs, if he wants to have prot PvP spec and holy PvP spec, let the guy have it, right? Let him swap in between the games. And then, as you said, if you actually have this opportunity where you said Simonize comes with the spec and innovation and it's super fun, let people innovate as well in between arena games. Maybe someone wants to play holy sub-spec deep prot a bit more. Maybe he wants to have 5 talent points deeper in holy for whatever reason, if they're queuing into a certain comp and certain MMR, stuff like that, right? Just for top of my head, just one of those thoughts that I had.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, I gotta have some great tangents, but I do have to move us on. Alliance or Horde?
Why not both?
You have to choose one.
Now, listen to me. When I eat pudding, I like to have 1 small cup of chocolate pudding, one small cup of vanilla pudding, okay? And I mix them together, I stir them, and it has this unique taste of perfect flavor, right? It's the same with Alliance and Horde. It's the same with Alliance and Horde, brother. You gotta have both. I love to be like human paladin. I like my blood of paladin. I love my human warrior. I like my orc warrior. It's just like for some people, it's either chocolate or vanilla. For me, it's the perfect mix and blend, and the enjoyment and refined taste of knowing when to mix both and how.
All right. Well, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt because that's the best. Usually, we make people choose one or the other, but that was the best. Explanation. So I'll give you both.
For the Alliance!
For the Horde!
All right. There we go. Thank you.
All right. So let's talk about your stream. We want to talk about your stream and your YouTube before we get out of here. So how often do you stream, and what's a typical stream like?
So I typically stream from, I would say, 4 to 5 days a week. Probably like something like Tuesday, Friday, and then whatever stream like that. That's my Twitch and YouTube are very different. It's like 2 polarizing identities almost.
Let's talk about Twitch first, and then we'll get into your YouTube afterwards.
So when it comes to Twitch, it's like as a Twitch streamer, you try to do a lot of different things. Maybe you want to be informative, or you want to be an entertainer. And I tried both, but sadly, I do have to say I'm kind of like super. I'm super currently disappointing the audience because I'm neither. I am super try-harding when it comes to raid leading at the moment. Like, I just tunnel vision that super hard because we've been investing a lot of time as a guild, and I myself personally have invested a lot of time into the guild, and we're really trying to push our speed kills or our parses or even our speed runs as a whole. So I've been really focusing on that and streaming that predominantly. So it's been a raid leader point of view, and a lot of the times that's not the most comforting stream for a lot of people, because I do have specific way of raid leading, and it's very harsh at times, and it's very unforgiving at times. But I do believe that iron sharpens iron, And throughout my experience, I don't think there's any other way, at least any other way that I could make it functional. So those streams tend to be quite a bit of like military style. We need to do this, go here, do that, up and down. No, don't do that. Go here. Stop. What are you doing? Void zone. Hey, why are you standing in void zone? Wake up, move over there. Boom. I can't life grip you. It's not mob. Stuff like that. Whereas I think my YouTube, I made Naxx boss guides, updated for Wrath of the Lich King. So those did quite well. So that's like super factual and super more chill. So it's kind of like different, as I said. Like, and also like on podcasts, you get a different version of me when I can kind of get to sit down and chill and talk. Whereas when I'm raid leading, are super into it, and a lot of we have a lot of stuff prepared, and we invest a lot of time into strategy and preparation and execution. So, and sometimes when things go bad, a lot of people end up being under fire as well. So, but it is what it is. Everyone has their own style of culture. As I said, I personally, I'm also come from a different mentality. I'm like Southern Eastern European. I'm very blunt. You see what you get. I don't wear gloves, and I know like Western mentality is a little bit more. I'm
like
paint.
that too. I don't sugarcoat things oftentimes, and it really rubs a lot of people the wrong way a lot of times. But
no, I would disagree.
If you're running the guild, though, right? Like those people are there for the same reasons. And if you guys are trying to speed run and things, people will not respect it if you don't call out the people that are doing the wrong things, right? Now, if you're in more of a casual guild, yeah, that may become very toxic, right? But if you're in a speedrunning guild where everybody's goals are aligned and everybody wants to move quickly and do the best that they can, if you're not calling out that person that's kind of weighing you down, people are going to be very angry about that. So I think it's about the environment that you create and what you're looking for.
I mean, I've always been like, especially even in more casual guilds, like I've always been for calling people out. Like, yeah, they might get angry or whatever, but maybe they didn't even know they were doing the problem. Now, maybe you don't call them out in front of everybody. I don't know about that, but at least tell them they did something wrong. Like if I did something wrong, I want to know, because like I want to not do it the next time, So I don't know. I think call outs are good, but I think most of the really good guilds, I mean, the raid leaders doing it just like you.
Sure.
I think what Mel said is just that's hammering the nail right there. I think for casual guilds, there's nothing wrong with being casual. A lot of people casual. There's nothing wrong with being casual. If you don't have the time, hey, I just don't have the time. I can't, like, what speed run, what trash, what are you doing? You're pulling whole raid. Why are you pulling whole raid? Chill down. I just came from work, man. And my dog puked for the 5th time this week. Hey, what? Can you chill down? Can I get my prayer of men and go, right? There's people like that. And it's
like, well, and that's casual. I'm talking more like sweaty casual, kind of like what we're at, where we are trying to do, the best that we can. We do have 99 parsers. We do, we are trying to be better. We aren't trying to get to that like next level, but we're trying to be at that level right below the top players, and so I think a lot of people in our guild would want to be told if they were doing something wrong. They just might not want it told in front of everybody else. That makes sense.
Here's my honest and unfiltered opinion on it. It's you need to have, like, the more you want to push, the harder grip you need to have on things, and it needs to be unapologetic. Like, we have an amazing roster. We have some of the best of their class currently on the roster. Really, like Turbo is one of the best warlocks I could possibly find ever. Has knowledge on casters like no one else. We just recruited recently another amazing talent, and we have a couple of other guys. Like there's another Holy Paladin who's multi-classing 6 specs across. I can put him on any other class. Boom, he's going to play super amazingly and stuff like that. But they all have their own issues. They all have their own egos. And the more you want to push, the more you want to be hardcore, the more 99s you want, faster kills, better progression, the more you really want to push harder and harder and harder. For some reason, people have more fucked up egos. And the only way you can control them is by being a complete and utter unapologetic bastard. There's no other way.
We actually talked about this with Salve Dally the very first time he came on. I think it was episode 6. I talked to him about, like, how do you deal with Onslaught? Because inherently, you get the best players in there. You're also going to have, you know, statistically the best, the biggest egos, and like the most like, you know,
for sure,
challenging personalities, you know, and like that's just the name of the game. It's what we dealt with, Mel and I, back in the day when we were rating at a high level in our original vanilla, and it's like it's got to be tough. So I mean, that's a really good point.
Here's the thing, though,
That's
when
really
you're playing at such a high level, you getting called out on your mistakes may like take a little bit of a blow to your ego, but you know you're capable of fixing those mistakes, right? So you're motivated. And I think somebody being blunt, direct, and kind of a jerk sometimes while they're leading a raid is fine if they're getting results, right? Now, nobody's going to listen to somebody yell at them over and over and over again if nothing's changing, if they're not improving, if they're not running through the content smoothly. Like, that's the difference. If you're raid leading and things go wrong and you're able to get people out of it and the next week they go very well, people are like, yeah, that was totally worth it. That's what we needed to hear, right? But if every week it's just this constant badgering of people, they'll just start leaving, right?
And it's the same with sports. I mean, growing up with sports, like I think different people react different ways. But if I had a hard-ass coach, I wanted nothing more than to prove him wrong and win his or of hers. If I didn't have any girl coaches, but if I did, I would just want to win their approval and just get, you know, them to say, you did a really good job today, you know, and like, and the harder they were, the more I wanted that, you know. So some people react really good to that, and some people just kind of shut down. I don't know. It's different personality types. And I'm sure the people that shut down don't try to get into the hardcore guilds. That's just a thought.
If I might also add on to that, creating and maintaining a hardcore guild is brutal. And the reason behind it is you need to manage it like a company, but you're not paying anyone. People need to pay their own sub. It's not a huge cost. It is a cost. Some people are paying multiple subscriptions. Some people have paid multiple boosts. Boom, we're already looking at $200. Top of that, they need stable connections. On top of that, they need a functioning cell phone or mobile phone. Why? They need a remote desktop for the queues. They also need a hotspot in case connection goes down. Top of that, the peripherals need to be proper, and they need proper PCs. So we're talking potentially several $1,000 investment coming from the individual, right? And from top of that, I cannot give them anything. The only thing I can provide them as someone, a leader, as a leader, as a face of the guild, kinda. The only thing that I can give them is an environment that has results. That's the only thing that I can give them.
Yep, results.
Right.
Yep.
If this was a company, if I had an employer that was pretty much malfunctioning individual, I could give them a pay cut, or I could say I'm going to cut you off. 2 weeks notice later, you're out, right? You're smoking constantly. You're not doing anything. Listen, you fucked up. Like you didn't email the customers, whatever. Like you're out. It's like that simple, right? What can I do in a guild? What can I do? Listen, we're splitting already. Here's the thing. I cannot loot ban them because we're splitting. There's no loot drama in our guild whatsoever. We have gotten so many dying curses, right? It is insane. There is no loot drama. We have 2 main runs that are splitting plus a GDKP where we're bringing certain mains as well. There cannot possibly be loot drama. If there is a loot drama, I will personally take that individual into the channel and ask them, what's wrong? Who hurt you? Who told you you're a Muppet? What's wrong, buddy? Talk with me, because trust me, you don't need that saffron neck. We've gotten it 30 times already. Why are you making drama over saffron neck? That's just an example recently, right?
What's wrong with Muppets?
I can't. Yeah, that's my endearing term.
I like Muppets.
It's my endearing term for raiders. So I can't loot ban the raiders, right, if they make mistakes, because we have already invested so much into our infrastructure where we guarantee loot drops. So that's off the table, right? I can't guilt kick them for a singular mistake because then I am the delusional as an individual. The only thing, the only option that I have, the last resort is publicly shaming them for their mistake. That is the only option, right? I cannot cut it. I don't pay them. That is literally the only effective quote unquote weapon you have as a raid leader is to publicly shame them. Hey, you see that void zone? Yeah. You sure you got like full HD monitor, buddy? What happened? Did you order monitor from Wish? Was it damaged during shipping? Do you have a crack all over the monitor? You don't see your void zone? Do we need to buy a new monitor? That's the only thing you have as a raid leader. And a lot of people think like, oh, you're like completely toxic. You're like subhuman individual almost. How do you dare to behave like that? It's like, yes. Like on paper, that is the case. You shouldn't publicly shame people, but really, you really don't have anything else except calling people Muppets perpetually and ask them, if they have if they visited the doctor and maybe consider getting a new pair of glasses or stuff like that.
Oh my God. Well,
Nice.
you can also balance it a little bit, right? Like you can call people out for doing the wrong things, but I think, also in the midst of, after a good fight being like, hey, so-and-so, you killed it on DPS, or nice job stepping up and getting all that done, right? Like there's a little bit of a way to balance it with some positive feedback. And I mean, that's just my,
they get it aplenty, trust me. But once again, you do have to think if you start praising them all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, I'm the best in the server. Yeah, what's up? Right. Who's the best? Huh?
Yeah,
who's the best? Who's getting next turn?
Enough.
Oh,
right?
no, yeah. When I was talking about the sports guys, the sports coaches, like they would never praise you. It was only like every once in a while when you did amazing, they'd be like, good job, Bob. That's it. I mean, and then the next day they'd be just as hard. Like, I mean, that's the whole thing.
Correct. That's a very small percentage of the population that responds extremely well to that. And the research will show much better results based on
so hard to believe.
A mix of positive and negative. But the positive doesn't have to come from, just that one person, right? Like, I think there's a lot of positive reinforcement that these players get just by looking at Warcraft logs and seeing that they're improving on Warcraft logs, or seeing the DPS meters, right? Like, so they're getting some more intrinsic positive motivation that you don't necessarily need to supplement.
Yeah,
but they're not getting any negative or punishment, right?
Just to let you know, Mel has her master's in behavioral science, and she works in human behavior, and she's a published author in it. So just let you know how much she's going off on a tangent here.
No, that's actually quite an interesting topic. I don't know how much deeper can we sip into this tangent, because I feel like we've been going over routes, but it is definitely an interesting subject, especially to talk with someone who actually has like hardcore professional like experience with it. Like, it's super interesting.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have much time left, so I'm just going to ask you if there's anything else you'd like to cover before we go ahead and end out the show.
Yeah, how do you guys feel about Ulduar? Are you looking forward to it? Like, any thoughts about Ulduar? Any feelings?
Ecstatic. I'm happy they're giving us pre-nerf. I'm a little concerned about the item level buff. When I had this idea, like, just to give you a little background,
concerned because rogues are going to not scale very well, and you're really upset that you picked the wrong class. Yep. I get it.
Yep. Stay tuned for the later part of the audio podcast to hear all about that. But I'm a little concerned about the item buff. When I first called it out, I called out like a good month or 6 weeks prior to the Blizzard dev saying that he had this idea. It was on the podcast. I just said I kind of wish they would nerf the TOC and ICC gear. It would make those raids harder, and it would make it not feel like the Ulduar gear was such shit after you moved. It was something I hated back in the day. And then I said, if you really wanted to like do a happy medium, maybe you buff the Ulduar gear and buff Ulduar. But like, those were my two ideas. And it looks like they're going with the buff of the Ulduar gear. It hasn't been confirmed, but it looks all but confirmed. So I'm a little worried about the power spike there. but I'm excited as hell. So that's the answer to the question.
It's interesting. Sorry, someone mentioned something about picking wrong class. I don't know, was it a meme or?
Well, there was this video that came out about classes and how they're scaling with item level gear and which classes are scaling the best. And they basically said rogues suck and don't scale
rogues
well.
and assassination rogues, warriors, combat rogues, both sets of warriors didn't scale well. Shadow Priest didn't scale well with his whole math. Like, that's the whole conversation we had with Simon Eyes, Sarth, and Rugs.
Yeah.
Can I just ask this? Have people accounted for addition of extra gems on overall on the gear and addition of the Storm Jewel gems? Has that been mentioned?
We didn't mention that, though. We should have, because I should have mentioned that when we talked about the rogues gear level going up actually meant damage going lower, because that's what made the Sunwell gear it was set the two set bonus big, but it was also the fact that lots of the gear had 3 gem slots that you could plug in these huge gems. So yeah, I should have mentioned that. Jeez.
I mean, it was a very basic analysis of basically what players look like from level 200 gear to 213 and comparing that percentage and then stacking that up, which doesn't take into account anything else. It doesn't take into account the set bonuses, the extra gem slots, the enchants, anything.
The fact that armor pen scales differently once you get to a certain threshold of the other stats, and then crit scales completely differently. Attack power gets more important every bit of crit you get. There's so many different ways that it scales, and there's different points you hit to where all of a sudden, there'll be a point to where my combat rogue is gemming almost all armor pen, but it's not yet. It's not now, right? So yeah, he didn't get into any of that. And it turns out that this guy's I guess gotten kicked out of the mage Discord on 2 different accounts, and yeah.
Also, something I linked to currently on Discord. I'm going to link this also in the chat and for viewers. I don't know if you discussed this or not, but coming Ulduar, we get epic gems in the form of Storm Jewel. I don't know. Have you touched upon it? I don't want to beat that horse.
No, we haven't touched on it on the podcast yet. But do you know when you can get these epic gems from Ulduar patch? Yeah, but when can you get them from what's prospecting
so that's TOC
titanium board? Okay, that's TOC.
Right.
Okay.
So TOC patch, you'll also be able to get them from Emblems of Heroism. So don't dump your Emblems of Heroism, save them, because that's going to be quite huge. Come TOC, you will be able to buy hella gems with that.
Because we're sticking with 2 gems throughout, so
yeah. And the next patch, if you're really super sweaty, you have option of fishing daily epic gems, and there's a grand total of 7 gems. You get 20 strength, agility, 23 spell power, right? You get 20 int, 20 hit, 30 stamina, 20 spirit. Debatably, 20 spirit is useless. But theoretically, and this is the theoretical maximum, which is why this video is inherently flawed, and it doesn't account for A, different raid mechanics, B, different fight durations, C, different set bonuses, D, different amount of sockets and potential socket bonuses on the said item levels, and well, I don't know which alphabet we're going for. The gems that you have also, there is a huge difference between having 16 strength gems or 20 strength gems, right? There is also difference in that. So it is not linear scaling like that. Nothing about this expansion is linear, and even it goes with block value as well. For example, on my full best in slot Ice Crown, right? Full everything that you can get out of Ice Crown, Ruby Sanction, my Paladin has less block value than my current Paladin, right? Sounds hilarious, but it is. because itemization is completely different. I go heavily into armor. I go massively into armor. I needed armor because things hit like a truck. Lich King hits like a semi truck and a half, right? And it's no joke. Like you could have even potentially you could have 5k block value. It would be, for the lack of better terms, fart in the wind what the Soul Reaper is going to do to your tank. There's just no other way around it, right?
Oh God.
Yeah.
So the best way I could describe it is I split the game into half. The first half is tier 7, tier 8, where there's a lot more also block value and stuff like that for tanks, and certain classes scale differently. And then you have the TOGC and ICC patch, which is completely different scaling on its own. Like things just, the armor penetration caps, stuff like that. Like a lot of people even, talk about, Feral goes strength. In my mind, it's like, I don't know, does it really matter? I mean, you're going to go ARP soon, brother. And after that, it's haste, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And,
Stuff like that.
And it's just like, and like even specs change. Like just to think about, like, Fury Warrior at the start of TBC, you were going down to get that last talent in Fury. But later on, you weren't, because that attack power buff didn't scale. It was the same one, so it wasn't worth it later, like at all. So you were getting other stuff. So like specs will change too. Like once rogues are getting enough hit on certain things, like you can actually put talents in other stuff. Like there's so many things that change, and then
absolutely. And if I might interject, sorry for interrupting you.
Oh no, you're fine.
Same goes for focused aim with hunters. Currently, like someone said, like Grim Toll for hunters because of hit. Even if it's survival, armor penetration is useless, stuff like that. But even in the future, you have to think about, like, what does item level 270 chest piece? How much stats does it have? It has infinitely more stats compared to the item level 2. It's not like you think like, 270, 200. It's like what? Something like 15%. No, it is double, like more than double, right? So when you get an item that has hit and it main dips into hit, all of a sudden you can drop focused aim because you don't need a hit that much, and then you can use those talent points, and then you get more damage, and it scales even better because your weapon damage is already higher and stuff like that. It all feeds into each other quite a bit.
Yeah, I've been doing it's actually really fun for me with the whole way I can change gems and stuff. Because like every time I get a new piece of gear, I'm like, oh well, I could drop this expertise gem now, and I can put something else in. And I was telling my guild leader, I was like, hey, once everybody has Grim Toll, I really want Grim Toll, because about half Oldawar geared, Grim Toll is gonna be fucking awesome, like for me as a combat rogue, right? But it's not now, right? It's like I'm like, no, I'm gonna use the 200 level attack power one. But once I'm scaling really good with armor pen, that Grim Toll is gonna be pretty freaking sweet, especially to use on different things and on different trash pulls. Like, I mean, it'll have a lot of different uses. So like, yeah. I'm right on page with you.
So I know we don't have a lot of time. Also, something that I would say is the tier lists are, for me, I made a meme video on tier lists. There's not just one. There's 8 or more. You have pre-bis for tier 7. Then you have half bis tier 7. Then you have full bis tier 7. Then you have tier 7 bis in tier 8 environment. Then you have tier 8 bis in tier 8 environment, right? So you have multiple basically power levels that you could have across all of these specs and classes. So like also when it comes to tier list for classes and specs, you can kind of make a general one. Obviously, like warriors are not going to do that great early, and kind of do they do that bad with double betrayers? I don't know. I still have to see that myself. I think like double betrayer Fury Warrior could do okayish, probably, not the greatest, but they're not going to be as bad as, I don't know, having some item level 200 weapon or something like that. So it's also like, I think when it comes to making tier lists, I personally consider them to be disingenuous because they don't fully explore the vast spectrum that an expansion is, right? Because there's so many gear pieces and situations and different scenarios, and there's over, I don't know how many bosses, but like over 50 bosses. That's 50 different encounters, and you would perform differently with gear score and item level on each one of them. And that's just one set of patch balancing, 335, same patch balancing, right?
Yeah.
And there's already that many iterations. That's kind of the ending rant from me. Sorry for ranting this one.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. Yeah, it's exciting, and like I'm excited for that. I can't believe I didn't mention the whole like gem situation, but yeah. Well, guys, I think that's gonna end it out. You just made me think of a few different things I wanted to talk about, but we can't have the episode be too long, so we're gonna go ahead and end it out now. I want to remind everybody to follow us on Twitter at WC Reloaded. Follow us there to find out for sure every time we go live. You can also follow the Mash Those Buttons Network at the Mash Network. If you want us to send us something longer form, send those emails to wcrpodcast@gmail.com. If you'd want to join the Mash Discord and interact with the hosts of this show or any other podcast on the network, that's mash.gg/Discord. How can you help the podcast? You can do that. The best way is just to tell your guild, tell your friends about it, and just talk about, what we talked about. Say, hey, they talked about this on Warcraft Reloaded. They'll be like, huh? What's that? You'd be like, oh, it's this podcast, And yeah, just talk about us is the best way. But you could also leave us a review on iTunes. You can leave us stars on Spotify. For the YouTube content, which is growing, and it's getting there. But like, you can help us out by leaving a comment, liking the video. It helps a ton. And then you can also help us out on Patreon. You just search Warcraft Reloaded on Patreon and help us out there. Now that the shows are coming out on Tuesdays, maybe one of the tiers that give you the early access to the raw podcast might sound kind of good. And also, now that we have ads on the pod, any tier on the Patreon gets ad-free episode. It's before, but just a little bit before the episode actually comes out. But then, yeah. And also Rested XP. If you go and get a guide from Rested XP, please make sure to use the 5% off code RELOADED. Helps us out, helps you out. It's a win-win. Whew. All right, man. Mel, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Mel Overwatch. You can find me in game, Mel Arena, or you can find me in Bob's stream at night.
Awesome. And Fark, where can we find the hard-ass raid leader stream, and where can we find the Good Boss Guys YouTube?
So on YouTube, you can find me under Fark Gaming. That's FARK. And on Twitch, my handle is Fark_TV, where I attempt to loot ban people on a weekly, but never have done so successfully yet.
Nice.
One day.
All right. And you can find me on Twitter at Blazin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB. And you can find me on Twitch at BlazinBob, _. And for anybody, you should definitely check out Fark_.tv. It's I actually found out, I got introduced to him by one of his viewers just coming in and throwing in an ad, and I was like, first time chatter. It's a little sus, but I'm gonna go check him out. Went and checked him out, and he was legit, and so that's how we got hooked up. So for that listener that did that, I appreciate it. Thank you.
I do have to say, I did not send any of my
I'm sure. Yeah.
Your chat.
Oh yeah, I probably should have said that. We talked about that. Yeah, he definitely didn't send him, but it turned out to be cool. So anybody else that wants to suggest a creator to me, drop in my stream and let me know, because it's always good to have more opinions. Fark's been fucking amazing tonight. And yeah, thank you.
I prefer Farktastic, but
Farktastic. Farktastic. Love it. Love it. All right. Well, guys, we're going to get out of here. Thank you for hanging out. Bye.
thank you so much for having me. You guys are amazing.
Thank you for coming. Thank you very much for checking out Warcraft Reloaded podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss any future content.